start our program shortly. It's already 12:47, so once again we'd like to request you to please enter the hall so that we can start our further session. And this session is about, another session we do have is about startup diplomacy, a new dimension of international relations. So I believe we'll be starting very shortly as soon as you all get inside the hall. Thank you so much for your cooperation. Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen. Once again, a very warm welcome to you all in CEO Club Global Presents Startup World Cup Nepal Regional 2022 in association with Startup Community Nepal. Startup Community Nepal, Robotic Association of Nepal, ICT Association of Nepal, CSIT Association of Nepal. Our sponsors are Siparadi Trading and IC Asia Agricultural Development Bank Limited, Lomas Care, Michelin, IME. Our banner sponsor are Century Bank, Kumari Bank Limited, Lakshmi Bank, Civil Bank, and yes, it's the Startup World Cup Nepal Regional 2022 biggest startup summit competition in Nepal, and we already do have our top 15 finalists who will be presenting their presentation after a while, I believe nearly around 3 o'clock, and yes, they will be pitching for 4 minutes, and 2 minutes will be for Q&A session. So I believe they are already giving their presentation right here to our technical team as well too. So ladies and gentlemen, yes, we just had before the high tea break, we had a panel discussion about global trends, impact funding on startups. I believe it went very fruitful, and it was a great starting of our today's Startup World Cup Nepal program as well too. So yes, we are trying to head forward for our another session, which is for startup diplomacy, a new dimension of international relations. And I believe all our panelists are right here, and we are waiting a bit while for our chair of this session. And yes, chair of the session will be Mr. Bharat Raj Paudel, Foreign Secretary. So we are waiting him to arrive, and as soon as he arrives, we'll be starting this session as well too. So yes, he is right, yeah. Okay, thank you so much, sir. So we'll be now starting our this session, and thank you so much for coming, sir. I was just, my eyes were right there in the door, so my eyes were checking that. So yes, ladies and gentlemen, here we restart our program of Startup World Cup Nepal. We are heading on to the very second session of today's event. So this is about startup diplomacy, a new dimension of international relations. So here we welcome the chair of this session, Mr. Bharat Raj Paudel, Foreign Secretary. A huge round of applause, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much, sir. Likewise, we would like to welcome right here Dr. Vishnu Hari Nepal, former Nepalese ambassador to Japan. Thank you, sir. So we do have our another panelist, and he is a known person to you all, ladies and gentlemen. Chairman of Startup Hub Nepal, Dr. Shambhu Pokhrel. A very warm welcome once again to you, sir. So we'd like to welcome startup ecosystem expert, Mr. Karma Bhutia right here, our another panelist. Ladies and gentlemen, we need a huge round of applause for our panelists right here. So next we do have Dr. Anjan Shakya, former Nepalese ambassador to Israel. Thank you so much, and I feel the girl power right here, a lady leading the session as well too. And here we welcome the moderator of this session, Vidya Bharati Sigdelji. A very warm welcome to you as well. So we'll be having altogether 45 minutes for this session. So looking forward for an inspirational and very effective, impactful session as well too. So Vidya Bharati ji, over to you. Thank you.
Thank you. Good afternoon and warm welcome to all our panelists, and special welcome to the session chair, Mr. Foreign Secretary. Rather than being a moderator, I would like to call myself a glorified timekeeper. I try to extract as much as we can within this 45 minutes from our panelists. Just to start, or setting on the session. So, startup diplomacy is a fairly new concept, and it was well discussed in the diaspora of diplomats when the Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi highlighted, what India is in a gathering at Munich when there was a gathering at Munich with all the non-resident Indians and the Indian diaspora, what startup would look like in India. And I quote, what he told was, India has come a long way and is leading the way of innovation. So that's what he said. And India, which already has over 100 unicorns, is witnessing one unicorn every 10 days. There was a time when India was nowhere in the race of startups. Today, we are the third largest startup ecosystem. So that's how he highlighted the startup ecosystem in India and invited all the diaspora, especially from Germany, to come to India on their ecosystem and the entrepreneurial journey. So with all this, I'd like to start with the former ambassador to Israel. So we had our diplomatic ties with Israel in 1st June 1960, approximately 60 years from today. And Israel is known to be one of the most front runner in AI-led and cutting-edge technology-led startups and the ecosystem evolution around that. So I'd like to start with former ambassador. What did we miss in this Israel's journey to the startup, and how could we have been doing better on that front?
Thank you, Mr. Moderator, Sigdel. And thank you for the organizer for inviting me here in this gathering, great gathering. This program is really crucial for us. When I was there in Israel, I have been looking for the start of entrepreneurs in Nepal, but I'm sorry to say I didn't have any contact with them. Now I am thinking that I should have met this forum before, so that we could be able to connect the startup companies, startup entrepreneurs with Israeli people. When I was there, they have been always talking about startup companies, and I have been looking there all around, like almost all areas in Israel. And then, I found there that what we lacked is really research and development. They have very much good research center. So we lacked research and development even in departments or units. When I was there, I went to several universities, hospitals, big companies, municipalities, and I saw there everywhere they have department, unit of research and development, and they have startup companies there. They try to encourage and even promote their startup companies. and they try to interconnect, make connection with the international people and ambassadors of different countries. That I see, and I see that missed. And I was also thinking that we should have, because Israel is like science, the environment is science in Israel. So wherever we go there, we see science and technology innovation everywhere, every places. And I try to connect the scientists between Nepal and Israel, but we lack, because I met chief scientists in Israel, but here they asked that, do you have chief scientists in Nepal? And I recommended the chairperson of NAST. He is our chief scientist. And we were just about to collaborate between the scientist group, but unfortunately, the current chief scientist of Israel, he resigned, and he asked us to follow up for the upcoming new chief scientist. So this is still, we have a pipeline in future that we can connect scientists between our two countries. But, and I see many start-up companies, start-up entrepreneurs in different sectors. First, they started with agriculture, because it's around 63 years of our diplomatic relations we established with Israel. At that time, they have nothing. They have land without any resources. They have no water, no electricity, nothing, any connections with this entrepreneurship. And they started with commune system, kibbutz, moshav. They started with this technology inside this moshav, kibbutz, and they started start off this kind of culture inside this system. So we can learn a lot from Israel. So they, if I, shall I continue or shall I? Because there are
yes,
many things.
Maybe one more minute.
Okay, thank you. Because I want to say about Israel, perhaps you will be very happy to know that what our government can do for us, especially for our entrepreneurs. Even in the time of COVID situation, 2019, because of the government facilitation to entrepreneurs, especially startup entrepreneurs, because when we talk about startup, it requires innovation, technology, technical, and smart management as well. So 40% of investment increase at the time of COVID situation of startup businesses in Israel. What is the main cause is they have like 30%, 40% return guarantee if their investments, even their investment portfolio declines. Government has this kind of facilitation to investor of startup companies that they receive 40% return on their investment if they declines their investment, and also low rate loans from government's development budget. And also they revive some of their taxation policies, that is they reforms their taxation policies, tax credit, what they did for their startup companies, that early stage investors in startup companies will receive tax credit amounting to 25% of amount that they invest. For the investment altogether, their shekel is 3.5 million for investment. They will have 25% of amount they invest. This is tax credit they are receiving, and especially because of they are from the background military force. There is the mandatory of every citizen, male or female, they have to go to military service. That they gain lots of this technology, innovation, idea from this military service. If I have time, I will explain it in later.
Thank you, ma'am.
Yeah, thank you.
I come to Dr. Bishnari Nepal, former Nepalese ambassador to Japan. So, sir, we started our diplomatic ties with Japan in 1965, and everybody knows Japan rose from the ashes of World War II. The biggest of their cities were destroyed. There was a mass famine and food shortages around that time. And Japan, by the 1980s, was one of the most thriving modern infrastructure provider, as well as, a a front runner in the technological innovations and cutting edge technologies at that time. And we still regard Japan as one of the front runners in that particular sectors. So with all our diplomatic ties, what we failed is to bring in what we could have in terms of the technologies, the innovation, and some processing of this in Nepal. What could we have done better, sir?
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Yes, really it was a time, 1956, the time when we had Nepal-Japan relations. It was really immediately after the devastation of World War II, also on nuclear explosions, atomic bombs in Hiroshima and Nagasaki. But the MacArthur plan, that they got the constitution after the further reconstruction, and Meiji era Japan in 1968 it had begun. They had started the reconstruction, even transferring the Western technology system to the original indigenous technology of Eastern technology of Japan. And I was really very much amazing that after the devastation also Japan immediately was able to contribute to Colombo Plan in 1954, where our human resources management section was. And this way Japan developed in fact very fast. I found some very hard working character of the Japanese people when the people compare them something like bees and ants, and sometimes, you know, when they are sleeping also while working. It's just so hard working people. And second factor is that of the patriotism. The patriotism factor also actually gave motivation factor for Japan's rapid development. And very special for Japan, I found, was the collective decision-making system. That system made really Japan a very strong, economically second largest economy, and now China has grown up, but for a long time Japan remained the second largest economy in the world. Therefore, I had the honor really to represent Nepal in a time when it was, and Japan was the largest donor country. They had 16 foreign secretary knows already, has a long experience in the international relations and also corporate development. $16 billion. She was the largest donor country in Japan in '95. I had that honor to, and that I will try, and like that our cultural ties, our ties with, not only that, simple one, Evelyn Egai Kawaguchi, one man, 1999, he visited Nepal, and he some 6 to 8 students in the time of that Rana period also, they started, right, human resources. You know that Sakura plant is our poem in Nepal, and also that we got halwa with in Nepal, everybody know from Japan, and also Godavari, Chrysanthemum. Now Sakura is so popular, I feel proud myself in Japan that our poem is Sakura and so popular in Japan. Therefore, I had the honor to promote these cultural ties, started with Buddhism and others, but I had that honor to promote trade, tourism, transportation. Tourism, yes, there was that time we had Nepal Airlines flight to Osaka also via Shanghai, but unfortunately we had to discontinue. Today I appeal for it. And tourism is adventure tourism, mountaineering. They love the mountains, Himalayas. I tell you one personal note also will be interesting to our distinguished participants also. When I met His Majesty the Emperor, you know, what His Majesty said, Ambassador, your king, that time King Virendra is very clever. Why, Your Majesty, I asked him. Because he visited during the coronation period, 75. And he advised me to go to Pokhara. But I could not see the mountains in Pokhara, that was cloudy. And I complained to your king to Kathmandu back. That time he was crown prince, and then what your king said, you know, remember? And no, Your Majesty, I don't remember. He said, Your Majesty, this is the invitation for the next time. That is the, cultural
Thank
pattern
you,
of
Dr.
natural heritage systems. So we work for trade, tourism, transportation, transfer of technology. It is very important. Transfer of technology in human resources management that we did. And in agriculture development sector, even we get the food stuff, it's still 1976 it is started, but it is continuing until today. The food stuff from Japan that we supply the food to the remote areas. So this infrastructure, I had that honor to enhance the. For example, I say my lifetime success achievement is Sinduli Road.
Thank you, Dr.
Sir,
we
let me
wanted to
finish.
talk more
This
on
is
the
the
startup.
infrastructure development, hydropower generation, for example, Kaligandaki, before I conclude, and then that was, a radar system, for
That's
example.
I'll get back to you
this
on more,
this
to talk more on the infrastructure.
Yes,
I go now
stop.
to
This way,
Karmaji.
infrastructure development was the emphasis and very good support for Nepal. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Dr. I go now to Karmaji. He's one of the leading startup ecosystem expert, and my question is, with drawing parallels with the countries like Israel and Japan, and many more, maybe Bangladesh or Rwanda, so, what could have been done in Nepalese ecosystem, and especially on the new coining of the term startup diplomacy? What could we do in terms of getting out there?
So it's a very, the question is very loaded. So I'll try to keep it simple. The first, म नेपाली में बोल्दा हुन्छ होला है, नेपाली में बोले ठीक छ होला हैन? अब यहाँ मानवहरू सबै एम्बेसेडरहरू छ हो, त्यसको बीचमा म चाहिँ अब एउटा कहाँदेखि आएर बीचमा यहाँ चेप्टेको जस्तो भयो है। मलाई डिप्लोमेसीको बारेमा ज्यादा आउँदैन पनि है। I'm not neither a diplomat, August company, but not from my area. So the thing that I can talk to, and that probably you all can relate more, are about practical things. The question is typically focused on यो जुन चाहिँ हाम्रो आजको तारिखमा जस्तै अब यो स्टार्टअपको एउटा डिप्लोमेसी हुन्छ, अब त्यो चाहिँ कुन सन्दर्भमा चाहिँ हामीले यो नेपालको कन्टेक्स्टमा राख्न सक्छ भन्ने खालको कुरा है। फर्स्ट एन्ड फरमोस्ट अब जुन चाहिँ स्टार्टअपको चाहिँ हाम्रो अब इन्डियामा सबैले कम्पेयर गर्छ, इन्डिया है कता कता अब अरू देशतिर नै तर हिजो यहाँ हाम्रो पुरुषोत्तम भाइ एक दुई जनाहरुसँग हामीहरु उहाँले मलाई बाहिर लगेर गएको थियो, दाइ आयो काठमाडौँ भनेर गाडीमा टुक्क लगेर अब घुमाउन लग्यो, त्यता गफ सफाली भयो। त्यो गफमा चाहिँ मलाई उजागर भयो के मलाई एउटा मेरो दिमागमा आयो भने चाहिँ यहाँ अझै हाम्रो यहाँ काठमाडौँ अब यता हेलो आवाज आउँदै जाँदा हजुर हामीहरूलाई चाहिँ यहाँ चाहिँ के हुँदो रहेछ भने अब कि बाहिरबाट लिएर आउँ, जुनै पनि स्टार्टअप जो चाहिँ सक्सेसफुल भएको छ बाहिरतिर, लेट्स ट्राई टु गेट अ जोमेटो, लेट्स ट्राई टु गेट अ ओला, लेट्स ट्राई टु गेट समथिङ एल्स फ्रम आउटसाइड हुन्छ नि। जस्तै इन्डियामा जुन चाहिँ सक्सेस भएको छ, किन भन्दाखेरि चाहिँ दाइ त्यो ब्रान्डहरू यहाँ लिएर आयो भने यहाँको लोकललाई त ट्याप एकैछिनमा खतम बनाइदिइहाल्छ हो। अन्त त्यस्तो गऱ्यो भने चाहिँ सजिलो बिजनेस। मैले भने त्यो तरिकाले त्यो एङ्गलले हेऱ्यो भने एकदमै अप्ठ्यारो कुरा हो यहाँ। अब किनभने इन्डिजिनियस एउटा स्वाभिमानको कुरा हो। अब यो ठिकै छ, हामीहरू सानोमा हुँदाखेरि हामीलाई ब्रान्ड कन्सियस क्या, बाहिरको अब एडिडासको जुत्ता कुनै के भन्ने अब लुई भित्र ब्याग बोक्नु त्यस्तो अब एउटा कुरा हुन्थ्यो नि होइन। अब बाहिर ब्रान्डेड यी लोकलहरू त्यो इन्डियामा पनि हुन्छ, हाम्रोतिर चाहिँ यो पहाड मात्र होइन इन्डियाभरिमै हाम्रो एउटा एक टाइपको मेन्टालिटी छ जहाँ चाहिँ वी वान्ट थिङ्स द्याट वर इम्पोर्टेड। अब सानोमा हुँदाखेरि हामीलाई पिक्चर धरि त्यो भिसिआरमा आउँदाखेरि अब बाहिरको त्यो इम्पोर्टेड हुँदा अलिकति हेर्नु अब मजा आउने हो त्यस्तो खालको। अन्त त्यही खालको फिलिङमा हामीहरू बढ्यो है। हामीहरूले आफ्नो चिज चाहिँ अलिक इन्फिरियर नै सम्झ्यो। अब त्यो नेपाली दाजुभाइ दिदीबहिनीहरूले मजाले मेहनत गरेर सामान ठिकै छ 19-20 होला, क्वालिटी निकाल्नु अब त्यो 19-20 होला। अब उहाँ डक्टर नेपालले त अब जापानमा कस्तो अब क्वालिटीहरू त एकदमै टप लेभल क्वालिटी उनीहरूले एम्फेसिस गर्छ होइन उहाँ प्रडक्टहरू। अब त्यो लेभलको हुनु सक्दैन ठिकै छ, तर लोकल हामीहरूको लोकल एन्टरप्रेनरलाई ठिक 19-20 छ भने त्यसलाई हामीहरू प्रमोट गरौँ न। त्यसलाई हामीहरू आफ्नो स्वाभिमान राखेर अब आफ्नो अस्मिता हौ त्यसलाई चाहिँ सम्झेर चाहिँ हामीले आफ्नो दाजुभाइ दिदीबहिनीहरूले जे गर्दैछ त्यसलाई अगाडि बढाउँ न, त्यसलाई एन्करेज गरौँ न। बाहिरको त अब जोमेटो त इन्डियाको टप हो नि त होइन। अब यी लोकल पनि सक्सेस स्टोरी छ, त्यही चाहिँ हामीले सेलिब्रेट गर्नु पर्यो। अन्त यस सन्दर्भमा चाहिँ म डाक्टर शम्भु पोखरेलज्यूलाई चाहिँ एकदम ठुलो तपाईँहरू सबैजनाले जोरदार तालीसँग उहाँले चाहिँ एक खेप एन्करेजमेन्ट चाहिँ दिनुपर्छ। उहाँले चाहिँ 5-6 साल अब कति भइसक्यो यो गरेकै छ, यहाँको इकोसिस्टम बढाउनु लागि पुरा मेहनत गरेको छ। यसले चाहिँ के हुन्छ भने अब हामीहरू पनि आउँदैछ, यो सालौनी साल हेर्दैछ, यहाँ अब अलिअलि बढ्दै जाँदैछ, नयाँ दाजुभाइ दिदीबहिनीहरू भेला भयो, उनीहरूले पनि अलिअलि सिक्छ है। अब उहाँले गरेको छ लगातार, अब क्रिटिसिजम आउँछ के आउँछ त्यो अलग कुरा हो, तर उहाँले चाहिँ लगातार त्यो पाराले पर्सिस्टेन्स स्टार्टअप्सहरूले पनि त्यही प्रकारले देखाउनु पर्यो। अन्त आफ्नो अस्मिता आफ्नो स्वाभिमान हौ योहरू चाहिँ हामीले सोच्यो भने, नेपाली प्राइड सोच्यो भने चाहिँ हामीले लोकल स्टार्टअपहरूलाई एन्करेज गराउनु पर्यो। यो चाहिँ अहिले अलिक हाम्रो युथमा ल्याकिङ छ। हाम्रो युथहरू जुन चाहिँ अब यहाँदेखि केही अरू चिज लगेर गएन भने पनि त्यति चाहिँ तपाईँहरू लगेर जानुहोस्। त्यो उबर हेरेको भन्दाखेरि उबर ओला हेरेको भन्दाखेरि ट्याक्सी मान्डो हेर्नुहोस्। स्टार्टअप यहाँ जितेको छ, उहाँ प्राइज जितेको पोर्टल 2021मा जितेको है। अब यहाँबाट जाँदैछ सिलिकन भ्याली हाम्रो अर्जुनज्यू है, त्यहाँ गएर प्रेजेन्टेसन गर्छ। यस्तो हामीले यति बेला चाहिँ हामीले त्योहरू एन्करेज गर्ने कुरा हो नि त। हाम्रो अस्मिता, हाम्रो स्वाभिमान यस्तोको कुरा आउँछ। डाक्टर साहबले राम्रो छुन्नुभयो। त्यो जापान सक्सेस भएको चाहिँ एउटा चाहिँ मेन कुरा चाहिँ उनीहरूको पेट्रियटिजम केदेखि आयो? प्राइड चाहिँ केमा? आफ्नो अस्मिता, आफ्नो चिजलाई चाहिँ सुपिरियर सम्झिनु पर्यो। हामीहरूले चाहिँ हाम्रो चिज सुपिरियर, त्यो त फर्स्टमा प्रोडक्ट छैन 19-20 छ भने पनि सम्झिनु त पर्यो नि। यो चाहिँ अब 19 देखि त 20 हुने डेभलप भएर प्रोग्रेस हुने चान्स छ नि त। त्यो प्रकारले हामीले सोचेर त्यसलाई चाहिँ हामीले सपोर्ट गऱ्यो भने चाहिँ त्यहाँदेखि चाहिँ त्यसको चिजको सक्सेस हुन्छ। खालि अब बाहिरको मात्रै सोच्यो, बाहिरको मात्रै प्रोडक्ट लाउँछु, बाहिरको मात्रै यो गर्छु, बाहिरको मात्रै स्टार्टअप भने त्यहाँदेखि त नेपालको इकोसिस्टम त पैसा पनि बाहिरै जान्छ नि त होइन। ट्याक्स पनि त्यो ट्याक्सको पैसा पनि उठाएर बाहिर जान्छ। त्यो अन्त नेपालको के को स्टार्टअप भयो त? यहाँको इकोसिस्टमले कहाँदेखि बढावा आयो? यहाँको मान्छेले कहाँदेखि त्यो के भन्छ त्यसमा पार्टिसिपेट गर्नु पनि पायो? ओके, कन्ज्युमर त भयो, त्यो कन्ज्युमरको डेटा धरि अरूले लगेर जान्छ। अहिले डेटाको जमाना हो। अन्त हामीले चाहिँ यो तर्फबाट हेऱ्यो भने चाहिँ सजिलो। अब यहाँदेखि चाहिँ अर्को अब त्यो डिप्लोमेसीमा चाहिँ म त्यति साह्रै जान्दिनँ, तर स्टार्टअप भन्यो भने चाहिँ डिप्लोमेसी भन्यो चाहिँ यही हामीहरू महेश भयो, अबलाहरू भयो है। यहाँदेखि बाहिर उहाँको एकजना बिहान उहाँ पनि हुनुहुन्थ्यो, कहाँ जानुभएछ हौ। यसरी हामीहरू भेला भएपछि यही हो डिप्लोमेसी। हामीले गएर यो स्टार्टअप यहाँ नेपालको स्टार्टअप इकोसिस्टम राम्रो हुँदैछ है, यहाँ पनि हुँदैछ, कुरा हुन्छ, यहाँ पनि राम्रो स्टार्टअपहरू निस्किँदैछ। अब यो ट्याक्सी मान्डोको गफ भयो, यहाँ दराजको सक्सेस स्टोरी छ, दराज पनि अलिबाबाले किनेको हौ। यस्तो सक्सेस स्टोरी यिनीहरू सबैलाई एन्करेज गराउनुपर्छ है। अन्त यस्तै हामीहरू कुरा अब उहाँ महेशले पनि लान्छ, उहाँले पनि लगेर जान्छ, मैले पनि लगेर जान्छु। यो पाराले उता कुरा हुँदाखेरि अब आजको तारिकमा अब केही भएन भने अब हाम्रो यहाँ पुरुषोत्तम भाइको पर इन्क्युबेटर सिक्किमको SMIT जुन चाहिँ म मेन्टर छु है, सिक्किम मणिपाल इन्स्टिट्युट टेक्नोलोजी, त्यो इन्क्युबेटरसँग कोर्टमा उसलाई एसोसिएट गराउने बनाउने चाहिँ एउटा अहिले कुरा भयो। त्यो पनि एकदमै ठुलो कुरा हो। अन्त उहाँ पनि जानु रेडी हो, त्यसको लागि पनि तपाईँ एक ताली मारिदिनुहोस्। अन्त यो चाहिँ यही यस्तै प्लेटफर्मको द्वारा मात्रै भेट हुन्छ। अब म नभए यहाँ आउने काम पनि छैन, शम्भुजीले बोलाउनु भएको। अब शम्भुजीले एकदम ठुलो यसमा मुरी धन्यवाद है कि अब यस्तो गर्दाखेरि डाइरेक्टली बेनिफिट छैन भने इन्डाइरेक्टली बेनिफिट हुँदैछ हो। साइडमा यसको यो हामीहरू यो के भन्छ स्टार्टअपको सन्दर्भमा कुरा हुँदैछ, स्टार्टअप अर्को कुरा हुँदैछ, उहाँको त्यहाँ इन्क्युबेटरसँग लिङ्कअप हुँदैछ हो। यस्तो यो बाहिरी धेरै कुरा हुँदैछ नि त। यस्तै प्रकारले चाहिँ डिप्लोमेसी पनि बढ्दै जान्छ। अब त्यो देशले के गर्छ, यसले देशले भन्छ ल यो मेरो बम राम्रो, त्यो यस्तो राम्रो, हामीहरू यस्तो गरौँ, त्योहरू म जान्दिनँ है। म त एकदम सिम्पल मान्छे हो, मलाई त्यस्तो आउँदैन पनि। अब त्यो भाषा पनि आउँदैन। त्यो अब डिप्लोमेसी भन्ने त म त कोही बेला कहिले त्यो डिप्लोमेटिक भयो भने म त गाली दिएको जस्तो लाग्छ क्या। त्यो डिप्लोमेटिक भने म त ठाडै बोल्ने मान्छे हो, भोटे केटा हो, ठाडै बोल्छु। ठाडै बोल्दाखेरि अब कतिजनालाई अब सुन्दा मलाई डिप्लोमेटिक भयो भन्दा मलाई त्यो मन पनि पर्दैन हो हजुर कुटनीति
Thank you Gauraji.
हजुर हवस् हुन्छ
That's one way of diplomacy, speaking straight from the heart. Now I come to Dr. Sambhu Pokhriyal. I have a very simple question. Why startup diplomacy? Why did you want to include a session on this? This is comparatively very new, and really it's a word that we have heard for the first time. A lot of us may have heard this for the first time. So why this? Why did you want to talk about this?
Okay, that's a very relevant question, and I was actually expecting, but you give me the good points of question. That's very good. So one fine morning, some 2 months before I was there in New York, I went to Washington DC, and I went to my embassy, and I met with our mission personalities like His Excellency and other peoples, and I requested them. I am the global CEO of CEO Club Global, and I want to meet their local Chamber of Commerce president. And I came to know that to meet those people for our embassy also is beyond their normal thought process. What I thought, and I went to the Silicon Valley as well, fortunately this time. And I asked the mayor, one of the mayor who had confrontation, a kind of psychological war with Elon Musk. Later on, he shifted his Tesla factory to Texas. Okay, so I met with the mayor and I requested her. So we have more than 20,000 CEO members around the world. They are certified millionaire, not only the millionaire. And more than 60 billionaires are there in our network. I want to form ecosystem in your area. So she told me, okay, we are ready, but we are not supposed to issue a letter for visa. So her reply and my MS's position gave me a new thought process that we have to start something from our own. I gave my counter answer to the mayor that the people we are talking about don't need your recommendation to get visa. Most of them are already visa granted people, and some of them you are hunting. You want those people to come to your area. So I later on disconnected and I didn't talk. Later on she sent me Facebook request in my Facebook, and I thought that she could realize our position. It is not that you have to have something extra to do extra job. And later on, I met with different ecosystem enabler in Silicon Valley, and I told them, I am ready to work with them. I didn't ask, are you ready to work with me? I didn't ask. I am ready to work with you to form or to expand your ecosystem. Because Silicon Valley is not only the headquarters of American ecosystem or startup, but it's a headquarters of global startups. Worlds, from any corner, the startups want to go. Once in their lifetime, they want to visit Silicon Valley. Later on, I thought one of my domain is international relation or diplomacy, whatever you say. So my PhD in that domain. So I thought, why not to start a startup diplomacy? Because if we talk about trade, 19 billion, we can say, I told blindly 100 ratio, $19 billion import, $2 billion export. How we can survive? And in that $2 billion also, value addition is only 300 million. If you start talking today to make that trade deficit into trade surplus, you have to spend at least 10 years. Though we have given idea of balancing that trade disbalance within 2 years, we had already submitted to our finance ministry. Of course, the file is safe, I believe, but it's not sure. Okay, but if we start a startup movement, and if we start a startup diplomacy, it is possible. Can you, I think, I want to ask one question. You don't have to reply, but you just shake your hand or head. Is it possible that one startup to make a value of 1 billion Nepalese rupees, ek arba, in 5 years? Possible, right? Yeah. If you take same startup in 100 countries, parallelly run, in 5 years, that will be the unicorn. That will be the unicorn. एउटा लुगा सुकाउन पनि तपाईलाई 1 घण्टा लाग्छ र 100 वटा लुगा सुकाउन गयो भने 1 घण्टा लाग्छ। तर एउटा लुगा सुकाउँदै उठाउँदै गर्नुभयो भने चाहिँ तपाईले 100 घण्टामा 100 वटा लुगा सुकाउनुहुन्छ। A kind of thumb, rule I am assuming. So let's start a startup diplomacy. And actually I propose His Excellency, the Foreign Secretary, that let's initiate this. He warmly welcomed me and he agreed to be the chair of this session as well. And we need a person like him. Okay? So my motto of initiating this is to promote Nepalese startup, first of all, to form startup ecosystem, resilient startup ecosystem in Nepal, and to promote Nepalese startups globally. Thank you.
Thank you, Sambhuji. In the remaining 18 minutes of the program, I would like to start with the session chair to summarize what his views about the startup diplomacy, and I'd want to follow him with a question. So what we have heard a lot is like, when it's a startup, so a startup will go ahead and the government would follow. So that's the motive that we have been hearing, and of course the government is also contemplating in this manner that if we start ultra regulation in getting the startups, definitely it would be a big hurdle on the growth. But when it comes to diplomacy, the government has all the muscles that it needed. It needs to start up on the startup diplomacy. So is this an area where the government should initiate? And also, sir, your thoughts on the whole discussion on the subject theme of startup diplomacy. And we'll save few minutes for the last minute questions after the session chair's summary. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Sukhdelji, for so wonderfully moderating this session. First, I would like to express my gratitude and thanks to Shambhu Pokhrelji for inviting me and for giving me this privilege to be among this talented community of the young people. It is absolute delight and it is absolute a privilege to be here. Thank you very much. And actually, before I enter into my summary as well as into my comments, perhaps this session should have been we should have invited a couple of other captains in Nepalese bureaucracy, like Secretary at the Ministry of Information Technology and Communications, Secretary at the Ministry of Finance, Secretary at the Ministry of Commerce, as well as thank you for including me in that. I think that would have added enormous value in this discussion. This is absolutely essential, right thing, and very timely initiative that Shambhuji you have taken. I appreciate that. And as regard to the summing up of the deliberation we had from 4 distinguished panelists, we had very exceptionally good startup ecosystem and startup atmosphere in Israel from Ambassador Sakya, and I could not resist myself repeating her word of that is a science society. Israel is a science society. I think she very much aptly captured the essence of atmosphere and environment, conducive environment, I should say, in Israel for the startups. And also we heard about the very successful story and successful experience of Japan from Ambassador Nepal, how Japanese have progressed, developed, and how they have been carrying forward. And we also heard about very interesting and very frank and truly delightful experience from our third panelist, Karmaji. Thank you very much for being so frank and original in your articulation. And thank you for sharing what is the local feeling among the real stakeholders within community about introduction of new technology or new startups in the way we do things. And that experience of your conversation with the taxi driver is very much interesting. And I appreciate also, he also called for promoting our local startups, not only envying what others are doing outside and bringing them here and introducing over here. Instead of that, he also called for that we can introduce our own indigenous startups and promote them for the benefit of our people and for the benefit of those innovators. And he also highlighted the importance of data. And before that, in the corridor, we had a conversation with Vidyavaridi about their experience of contributing to some very important high-tech projects of artificial intelligence. And Sambhuji has very much revealing experience of his own during his travel abroad, as well as working in Nepal, and also working with different partners that he has. And he has highlighted very importantly so the huge trade deficit that we are experiencing in the country, and also, advised or also articulated the solution that this startup can be very potential, highly potential avenue for us to explore to plug that heavy and huge trade deficit in the country. Basically, this was the essence of the conversation that we had. And on my take, I think this is a new terminology that we have initiated today, that is startup diplomacy. But this is not very new for us in the way, in the business that what we are doing and what we have been trying to do. Startups, you are innovative, you are enterprising, you are talented, you are brilliant, and also you are creative, you are ingenious, and you have the idea and you have the know-how of technology. It is the combination of all these different things that is startups we can generate, we can promote, and we can also advance. In the field of technology, in the field of information and communication technology, also in the field of promoting economic diplomacy. I came to the word. We speak about economic diplomacy. We in my ministry, in the work we do, in our missions, in our embassies, we do this thing and we also talk a lot about this. And this startup diplomacy is one of the elements of the economic diplomacy activities that we do through the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, through our arms that are our missions abroad, and through our diplomats that are stationed abroad. Let me share some examples. France and Denmark they have started recruiting technology ambassadors dedicated to the technological hub in the Silicon Valley. Similarly, many other different countries have started adding up IT experts in their embassy wings, economic diplomacy wings. And similarly, the embassies have started collaborating with the local enterprise communities, entrepreneurs community, and also local chamber of commerce and industries in the countries they are stationed. And the purpose and objective is manifold. One is to attract the talented people for investment of ideas, investment of knowledge, and investment of capital in the country, and also for the promotion of startups and for the promotion of what we have to sell abroad. In that sense, through startup diplomacy, we can do a couple of things as a government or as government agencies, and from the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, we can do a couple of things. And for that, this year's budget has given some space also. If I may, this year's budget has spoken about a concept of challenge fund, establishing a concept of challenge fund. I think that might be interesting to those who are interested in that. And also it speaks about the establishment of incubation center in Hetauda Industrial Estate. And also it has a policy of promoting Make in Nepal and Made in Nepal. And also has made some provision of a little budget of rupees 260 million. I encourage all friends over here and those associated with this community to kindly try to benefit from these incentives if you feel they are useful to you. And if you feel that they are not useful or they cannot be useful to you, please suggest how to improve those schemes so that they can benefit people like you. And as far as we are concerned, we are living in such a place where both our neighbors are topmost ecosystems of startups. India, Sigdelji just said, quoting Prime Minister Modi in his Munich speech recently, some 2 weeks ago, that India is third largest startup ecosystem in the world. And China, I don't have to explain more about how they are growing and how they are promoting startups. So in that sense, what I have 2-3 propositions, not very big, they might seem, but I have 2-3 propositions. Since this is a beginning, we are very much committed to promote startups in Nepal, to incentivize startups in Nepal, and also to inspire innovators and enterprising people. And we are also keen to attract investors and innovators in Nepal, and equally keen to partner the private sector, the people with ideas like Sambhuji and people with ideas like you in the audience. It is important because strength of states depends on technology. And there is a saying, very famous saying, and I quote, who controls the most advanced technology will determine the world order of 21st century. This is not my saying. This is what I came across when I was researching before I came over here. And this is exactly true. We heard about story of Israel. Israel is a very small country in terms of geography and even in terms of population. But the power Israel wields in the world is highly disproportionate to its geographical size and population size. It is because of its command and control over the cutting edge technology. So, now to my proposition, MOFA would be happy to host at least 2 virtual interactive sessions with the startup community in Nepal with our missions, diplomatic missions outside. We have total 40 diplomatic missions abroad, and they are also equally keen to contribute whatever best we can, given the limitation of whatever we have, but still they are very keen to contribute in that process, and we are very much keen to contribute in that process. So let us have at least 2 interactive sessions with our startup community here in Nepal, virtually with our missions abroad. I think that would very much educate both sides, number 1. Number 2, that would encourage our people, our diplomats abroad, to do something new that is innovative and that contributes eventually, significantly, to balance Nepalese trade, and that would also contributes to promote Nepalese economic diplomacy, broadly the term we have been using so far, and also that would, ultimately make them successful to have been contributed at least something for the good of the country, because relying only on the traditional way of doing business and traditional way of doing trade is not sufficient, and this is so particularly in the post-COVID era. So we must promote startups, we must promote technology-based new economy, new trade, and we must also, promote new technology itself within Nepal and from Nepal to outside. And second proposition would be, we would be very much keen to connect Nepali startups with our diaspora community. In our diaspora community also, there are people who are highly talented, who are highly enthusiastic, who are highly hardworking, highly innovative, and genius people, who have succeeded in their own lifetime in a matter of a decade or 2 to reach to a very satisfactory level of achievement, and they are continuing that. That is not their destination. It is a continuous process, and they are growing and they are enriching themselves. And that community is the first generation Nepali diaspora who has a deep attachment to this country and to the Nepalese society and to the people like us, and who has also sense of gratitude to this country and to this society, and are keen to contribute whatever little way they can, even living outside the country. So we are very much keen to connect you with that community also, because these people, they have enormously added value in their knowledge, in their skill, in their education, in their expertise, in their technology, so forth. So connecting these people. It doesn't mean that I don't have to connect you to the entire 5 million, 6 million Nepalese community living abroad. If I can connect to you, say, 1,000 or 2 highly sought after individuals, I think that would make much difference, much difference. We don't have to be connected with everyone. We have to be connected with those who are relevant to us, who are important to us, who can contribute to us, who can collaborate with us, and who can support what we intend to do, and who can complement what we intend to do. And we are very much keen to do that with you. I think with these words, I didn't have to say much about the importance of startup diplomacy. Perhaps I was able to give a sense of startup diplomacy's importance in encouraging and in supporting this talented community, and also in partnering with the very innovative friends like Sambuji over here. With these words, I thank you very much, and I appreciate for this event and grateful for this privilege. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary. We just started the startup diplomacy right here with the initiatives that Mr. Secretary has announced. Of course, like connecting to the Nepalese diaspora who have already achieved something. It's really useful. And also, like, you know, getting access to the other countries' startup ecosystem and the diaspora out there who is working on the startup would be really interesting, because sometimes we don't need to reinvent the wheel. We just need to know how or learn how to make it round. So I think with all these things in place, we'll really have a startup diplomacy actually in effect, which is definitely going to help our ecosystem here in Nepal. With all this, we ran short of time, so we are not taking any questions. And I'd like to thank Mr. Sambuji for giving me this enormous opportunity to have an interactive session with the August gathering and the dignitaries that whom you often do not cross into corridors. Thank you. Thanks a lot, sir. And to all of you. Thank you.
Well, thank you so much. It was an amazing session. The second session was also really very good, I believe. And I believe most of you has been looking forward to the dignitaries to talk with whom we have in the dais. So thank you so much, dignitaries. We do had as our chair of this session, Mr. Bharadraj Paudyal, Foreign Secretary. Also, we'd like to thank Dr. Vishnu Hari Nepal, former Nepalese ambassador to Japan. Also, we'd like to thank Dr. Shambhu Pokhrel, Chairman of Startup Hub Nepal. We'd like to thank Karma Bhutia, Startup Ecosystem Expert. We'd like to thank Dr. Anjan Sakya, former Nepalese Ambassador to Israel. And also we'd like to give a huge thanks to moderator Vidya Bharati Sikdelji. And with this, we are end of the second session, but we'd like to present token of love to all our panelist members. So can we have the token of love? And we'd like to request Dr. Shambhu Pokhrel to do the honors to present token of love to our panelists. A huge round of applause for this panelists, ladies and gentlemen. So yes, ladies and gentlemen, with this we are to the end of second session, but we still do have 2 more sessions to go forward, and also we do have World Cup pitch deck as well, which will be one of the very most interesting part of this today's session, today's event. So yes, meanwhile we'd like to thank our panelist and our chair of the session as well too. Here we present token of love to chair of our session, Bharadraj Paudyalji, Foreign Secretary. Thank you so much, sir. We are very much delighted to have you here. Thank you. So also we'd like to present token of love to our moderator, Vidya Bharati Sikdelji, who did an immense, wonderful job. We are very happy to have you as well. So next, we'd like to present token of love to Dr. Vishnu Hari Nepal, former Nepalese ambassador to Japan. Thank you so much, sir, for sharing your lovely experiences once again, and it is really very inspirational. Here we have Dr. Anjan Shakya, former Nepalese ambassador to Israel. Thank you so much, ma'am, for coming, and yes, I feel the girl power once again right here. Thank you. So next we do have one of the jolly panelists of the day, Karma Bhutia, startup ecosystem expert. Thank you so much as well too. So we'll be taking a group picture right here, and yes, heading forward for our further schedule. And once again, a huge round of applause to all our panelists, ladies and gentlemen. Startup diplomacy, a new dimension of international relations. So yes, this is CEO Club Global presents Startup World Cup Nepal Regional 2022 in association with Startup Community Nepal, Robotic Association of Nepal, ICT Association of Nepal, CSIT Association of Nepal. Our sponsors are Siparadi Trading and NICE Asia Agriculture Development Bank Limited, Lomus Care, Michelin, IME Pay, banner sponsor Century Bank, Kumari Bank Limited, Lakshmi Bank, Civil Bank, and yes, we are very thankful to all our sponsors, our panelists, and everyone right here in the hall. And also, I believe you are watching us live from Business Television as well as our different social media platforms as well. So heading on, ladies and gentlemen, we do have a person right here who has made Nepal's name in Guinness World Record book. So here we have our Memory King, whom we call the Memory King, Guinness World Record holder, Mr. Arpan Sharma. But then we'll be welcoming him very shortly afterwards, after a while. So we are heading on to our another session, I believe, which is digital transformation, RegTech innovation. So without any delay, we'd like to introduce you all with our panelist and chair as well too. So this session is for digital transformation, RegTech innovation. So here we welcome the chair of this session, Keval Prasad Bhandari, Secretary of National Planning Commission. I believe he is right here. So I believe he is right here, but before, I would like to introduce you to our panelists right here. Mahesh Murthy, founder, director of Exceed Space. Thank you so much, sir. Likewise, we'd like to welcome once again Karma Bhutia, startup ecosystem expert. We do have Mr. Lokraj Sharma, Chairman of Social Entrepreneurship Council, Anarian, Denmark. A very warm welcome to you, sir, as well. त्यसै गरी यति बेला म स्वागत गर्न चाहन्छु Dr. Rajiv Shubba, Chief Operating Office, Info Developers. Okay, he's right here. Dr. Rajiv Subba, ladies and gentlemen, Chief Operating Officer of Info Developers. Also, we do have Mr. Sujit Shrestha, Chief Operating Officer of Standard Chartered Bank. Okay, and we'd like to welcome the moderator for this session, Mr. Nirajan Kandel. I believe we are a bit shorting our panelists right here. We are, I believe, waiting for our chair of the session as well too. But then we do have here in the panelist, Mr. Mahesh Murthy, founder director of Exceed Space right there. We do have Mr. Karma Bhutia, startup ecosystem expert. We do have Mr. Dr. Rajiv Shubba. Also, we do have Mr. I believe he's Sujit Shrestha. Sujit Shrestha right there. And we are waiting for our moderator, Nirajan Kandilji. If he is here.
We can start. You can moderate it.
Okay, we can start it. So, I believe, do we need to wait for our chair of the session?
Why don't you chair it off?
It would be my privilege if I could. I'm not that expert that I could share the session, but yes, I can moderate it. Over to you, sir. What all you say?
Hi, it's good to be back. I've been doing business in Nepal for 5 years. Happy to be here. While there was a lot of theory, I think that was being told out here, I've been living it, trying to invest in Nepal. I first approached the government in 2017, and I still continue to approach the government in terms of helping us help startups. I think there are some challenges, and we'll come to that. Quick introduction, I invest in companies. I have 65 investments. Most of them are in India, but I've also invested in the US, UAE, and other countries. My current focus is in the space industry. So one of my investments is a company that has launched 5 satellites already from India. It's the first Asian company, private company in space. So we're able to do that even despite a lot of opposition from the Indian. I think we have a chairman here of the session. We don't. I think, Karma, you've been here before. You're the chair of the session. Take it.
Oh, who's supposed to chair it?
Well, I believe I'd like to request Dr. Sambhu Pokhriya. We have been waiting for the chair of this session, Mr. Keval Prasad Bhandari. Could you let us know where he had reached? I believe he's right there. So my eyes are right there for Shambhuji right now.
Okay, so I think the theme is digital transformation. We'll just continue as a conversation. We can continue, right?
Yes, for sure. I believe so.
I think, sir, why don't you start?
Good afternoon. My name is Sujit Shrestha, and it's a great privilege and opportunity to join this session. Thank you for the opportunity. I think we will go over the discussion. I think we can share our ideas, thoughts, and probably from introduction, I have been working in Standard Chartered Bank from last 23 years. So this is my latest role. My role is mostly on the operations part. But having said that, actually I have responsibilities on the technology as well as the innovation in the bank. So we are a global bank. So maybe I can actually share some of the perspective of multinational, banks, enterprise, and how we are transforming or how we are taking that, digitization into our own organization. Thank you. I will just pass it over to Dr. Rajiv Subba.
Namaste and good afternoon. My name is Rajiv Subba. Currently, I am the Chief Operating Officer of Info Developers, which is a tech company, one of the leading tech company in Nepal. And we work in, basically we work in the government sector and also in the cooperative sector. So we have more than 1,000 clients, and we develop different kind of information system for the core banking system as well as other information system that is necessary for the digital landscape. What I would like to start with is an example that we need to change the culture if we want to go to digital transformation. Culture is one of the prime factor that we need to have a consideration. Let me give an example. With due respect, I was invited for this program, and I got the phone call. I got the chit-chat with Dr. Sambhu, and I'm here. But nonetheless, I came a little late, not because of my timing, but because of the lack of communication problem. As I came from my office from Sanepa to this place, I came through the Dovikola corridor, or the river corridor, and I came towards the Amrit Science campus, and I take a right turn. I came near, and I found there is a roadblock because some construction work was going on, and my watch was already 1:20. And I took a turn, and I went to the Lainchor and back to Narayanhiti, then to Thamel, and took a right turn and came back to the gate of the Aloft Hotel. Again, it was blocked. So I had to take a U-turn back, went to Chaya Center, and I came here. This is exactly the current bottleneck we have. We have the technology, we have the access to the technology, but we are not using it. So one of the prime factor I see from my perspective is that culture change is needed if we really want to go toward the digital transformation we are seeking. So I think let's start from the cultural perspective. That needs to be changed, that needs to be embraced, and that needs to be utilized. And I think then we can move on to the digital transformation. Thank you.
Hi.
Thank you so much, sir. And here we are welcoming one of our another panelist here, Lokra Sharma, Chairman of Social Entrepreneurship Council, NRN Denmark. A very warm welcome to you, sir.
In the spirit of democracy, this is being, everybody is a co-chairman of the session till the session chairman turns up. Let's continue on this entire subject of culture. India, I come from India. I was born there, even though I've lived and worked in the US, in China, in Netherlands, in the Middle East. We're very similar in cultures, right? There was a huge resistance to change. And finally, to be able to get anything done, it was very hard, even though the government has had many resources, many of the early IT companies in India were owned by the government, it had to go private. India's largest digitization project that many of you may have heard of, the Aadhaar card, where basically more than 1 billion people got their first identity card for the first time, which allows them banking, etc., was done by a group of volunteering NGOs who got paid nothing for it. So it was a government project, but it was done outside the government. And that has now led to the fact that today, online in India, there are 5 billion transactions a month, right? I have a small farm outside of Mumbai. The people who work at my farm get paid digitally, all right? I have to go on my phone and the money comes to their account. When they have to order, they have the ability to order on Amazon, and Amazon delivers to the farm, and the farm is two hours outside of Bombay. It's in the middle of nowhere, all right? All of this changes happened because, you know, a certain amount of lines of code were written by the private sector and brought into government. There's got to be a willingness to bring this in. So my own, very, very personal, subjective, and politically incorrect views are simply this, that to be able to get digital transformation to happen, you need less government and more private sector involvement, whether it's paid or unpaid. My simple belief of any kind of organization working is that the top of the organization has to do one of three things. You either lead, or you follow, or you get out of the way. All right? If you neither are leading nor are following and still are stuck in the way, nothing is going to happen, right? That's been the story of many governments all over the place, because the entire idea is that I'm not going to lead, I'm not going to follow, and I'm going to be in the way, right? So I think that one culture change has to happen where it's very clearly recognized. I'll give you an example. A few weeks ago, I had hosted United Arab Emirates Minister of Digital Transformation, Artificial Intelligence, Remote Work, and this was an Emirati gentleman, and we had conducted an event in Mumbai for him, where he was basically coming to Mumbai to say, startups move from India to Dubai, right? And I said, tell me what this is all about, why are you doing this? And he said, well, you know what, the entire population of Dubai is 3 million, out of which the expats are 2.8 million. That means there are only 2 lakh locals, right? We know that for it to grow, we need to get the best talent from around the world. What we will do is we'll do whatever it is to get them. And I said, give me an example. And he said, you know how long it takes in the US to get a green card? I said, yeah, between 2 years and 25 years. He says, our official turnaround time to give you a green card or a golden visa, our cutoff limit is 4 hours. Our median time is 2 hours, 45 minutes to give you a green card from the time you apply. All right? I said, that's incredible. You know, what else happens? He says, you might think I'm from a family. I'm not from a family. He's just an Emirati. He says, I get my KRAs every morning on an app. The ruler of Dubai every morning sees what his 40 ministers are doing. He says, in any month, the bottom 10% or 15% of ministers in performance are liable to be fired every month. All right? So if you think, remember, Dubai is a desert. It has no oil. It has no wealth. Everything has been created by government regulation or the lack of it or whatever it is. A regulation which says I will work with the private sector to make things happen. All right? I think you will see at the root of all this, Nepal is really, really ripe for this. We have 28 million people out here, not counting the 6 million people who are outside. We have 35 million mobile connections. All right? We have 1.2 mobile SIM cards for every person. We have 18 million data connections in Nepal. All right? Which means that today, virtually every family in Nepal has a data connection. which means that everything from education to healthcare to your most basic necessities to food to all kinds of governance to jobs, etc., can be entirely done digitally. Because you have the ways and means of reaching the population. I understand that we have a structure saying there's a central government, there's a provincial government, and there are local governments that we have to go through. But remember, that structure was simply created to get the benefits down to the local people in a time when mobile phones did not exist, but they exist right now. Do you still need to go through 3 layers of 3 different kinds of bureaucracy to be able to get there? Or can you all work together, be as part of it, and allow this to happen and go through seamlessly? All right? And this is in everything from, as Dr. Rajiv pointed, you know, Google will tell you that there is a block on the road because it sees that there is traffic out there. But if you have cameras, that will tell you more. It's not difficult to be able to put these systems in, and these systems are not urban, elite, only for the rich or only for Kathmandu Valley. These are systems that actually connect everybody in the world. COVID was a great time, all right? Because, not from a health point of view, but because for the first time, everybody left the city and went into small towns. So the usage of infrastructure really got tested. So for 2 years, you know, for half the time I was working from my village, where my company, I had my 2 children and 4 cows. And my cows were better behaved than my children, all right? But to be able to control companies around the world, you know, we're waiting for a spaceship to launch so it can take our satellite up or whatever. Everything was done from the village, and we were able to do it. Payments were able to be made, salaries were able to be paid, presentations were done, contracts were signed, MOUs were signed internationally. Everything was done sitting from the village because we simply used the powers that were available on the mobile phone. If you want to leapfrog, you can say, I will go through. It's like, you know, in 20 years ago, India only had 1G mobile phones. And the entire thing was we'll go to 2G and 3G and 4G and it'll take time. In the US, for example, everybody got 100% landlines before they first got the mobile phone. In India, we took the call, good or bad, saying we're not going to wait for everybody to go to landlines. We'll simply go to mobile phones. So what happens today that now in a country of 1.4 billion people, we have 1 billion mobile connections and only 50 million landline connections. Only 5% of India has landlines. All right? While 70% plus of India has mobile phones. And that's really pushed it forward. My very simple submission here is don't focus on the bureaucracy. Focus on the fact that every Nepali has a mobile phone, has the ability. 16 million or 18 million Nepalis, which include every family in Nepal, has a digital or a data connection on the phone. Bring down the cost of data. Do everything through data. Directly onto the phone. Deliver the service. People are smart. They will figure out how to use it, right? Whether it is Arjun and his team delivering taxis or, you know, somebody else delivering goods or somebody else delivering food. Everything is possible. Focus on the mobile phone as the end device and, you know, engineer for that. Don't engineer from the top down, engineer from the ground up. That's my 2 bits. Thanks.
So,
okay. First of all, sorry for being late. Actually, I was here on time, and I thought the previous session will go longer, so it's just been out for a few minutes. I think today's our topic is to how the RegTech innovation create the impact for digital transformation for the world and for the Nepalese society. Let me introduce my context and then and the other issues we will discuss later on. Always there is a discussion, is regulation first or the innovation first? Everybody should have to be agree, I think, is the innovation is the first. And then comes the regulation and the practicality and so on. But innovation should be rational, practical, and in a business perspective, it should be enough for the commercial and better for the society and impactful. I'm very happy to share you one case. This is especially related with my business. In fact, I'm from Denmark. I've been there like 16, 17 years. Well, I came first here in Nepal. We try to do so many banking product or payment or many other things. We try to work here in Nepal, but the bank was offering like a very close. The CBS in Nepal has been almost no APIs. Everybody, if you have to connect with the bank, you have to put like a middleware, and it takes protocol like 3-4 months for approval, and then you have to create the middleware, you have to put there, and then required hardware and so on. So that was problem for ourselves. So actually the problem is the source of the innovation. Then we developed a solution that's called API management system. Now this 6-month job is reduced for 2 hours. Now any bank can onboard your any services in the bank within 2 hours. Before 1 year, it was taken almost like 3 to 6 months. And it's costly too. This I'm giving an example because there is a highly close relationship between innovation, transformation, and business development, especially for the startup. I think that today's discussion will be one of the actually a platform for this to address this issue. Thank you.
So, thank you. I think it's quite learning experience for me as well, just to hear my other panelists here in this session. I was just thinking like where to start from and where to end. It's very broad topic, big topic, and digitization is quite generalized also, yeah, nowadays. And whenever we see any technology, and digital comes quite synonymously, right? So I was just trying to, first of all, narrow down my thoughts and how to really articulate the issues and the opportunities in my industry, which is the banking. And I think sir also actually mentioned the banking as one key sector. I think in last 2 to 3 years, okay, I'm also a bit confused, frankly speaking, in how we are transforming industries. Even my experiences that here in Nepal, I was just like, okay, I can speak in Nepali also, right? So most of the participants are in Nepali. यस्तो छ कि अब हामीले अहिले नेपालको एउटा सक्सेस स्टोरिजमा धेरै ठुलो सक्सेस स्टोरी भनेको एउटा payments को digitization, right? So which is, I don't need to say that, what is that? E-सेवा हाम्रो F1soft को एउटा leapfrog अथवा एउटा जुन चाहिँ भएको छ last 2 years मा, many of us actually give that credit to the COVID, हैन? COVID ले automatically यो CEO ले गरे कि CEO ले गरे कि अथवा कसले गर्यो भन्दाखेरि ultimately we are not getting that credit, it's due to COVID, right? But I have some kind of, sharing because I've been following this sector from quite some time, and Biswas ji haruko सँग चाहिँ एउटा जुन चाहिँ हाम्रो interactions हरू हुन्छ, and the challenges they have faced over years, and the kind of challenges यति मात्र हैन कि त्यो सरले भन्नुभयो कि हाम्रो राजीव दाइले भन्नुभयो कि एउटा कल्चरको कुरा पनि हैन, and that's very important के त्यो अडप्सनमा चाहिँ कस्तो भयो भने सोलुसन मात्र भएर भएन, हामीले कुनै चीज solution चाहिँ before even looking at the problem, what problem we want to resolve, but we start innovating, right? Whether client needs that or not, or whether that there is a need of that particular solution or not. शायद long back when these solutions came in the market, adoption rate was not high. And I can give you an example of credit card also, simple digitization which happened many years back, decades back, हैन? हामीले न्यु रोडको पसलमा कुनै बेलामा क्रेडिट कार्ड लिएर गऱ्यो भने 3% 4% काट्नै पर्छ भन्ने एउटा आउँथ्यो के त्यो टाइममा, राइट? तर over years that culture has changed because now it's more commercial kind of business गर्नेको माइन्डमा भइसक्यो कि यदि if they don't accept credit card, it's actually kind of incompetitiveness for these businesses, right? So it has automatically started that transformation. So basically always, so my point is that is it actually we are trying to drive the digital transformation as in stakeholders of the whole ecosystem, which could be vendor partners, which could be like banks, which could be governments, which could be anyone, like India's success stories. Is there a need of that to Nepal or not in today's scenario, right? So I'm just going to talk about a bit of like more banking perspective, because banking is important, financial transactions are important, and I think one of the problems that we are facing all the time on the payments, that is resolved. And it's not me that I'm saying. Even last banking summit, governors are in the same forum when we came 2 years back, and we are actually debating ourselves on the roadmap for 2 years or 5 years, but we saw that happening. Now it's actually back, or it's like past thing, and we are looking forward for other digitization. I think that part Nepal has seen, and that is one part of the whole array of services, or financial services, or there could be other many industries that gets benefited. Still, we see that the onboarding side, जब client onboarding कसैले गर्छ, identity verification हरू गर्छ, आज video KYCs हरू आइरहेछ, gradually हामी कहाँ चाहिँ यो national ID को infrastructure हरू build भइरहेछ, like sir said, Aadhaar India मा, and जुन ecosystem technology stack हरू जुन develop भयो India मा, right? It's so easy to nowadays to replicate the concept which are successful, right? And definitely I will not go into the more deeper into the regulatory environment and the more government kind of side of stories, but what should we focus as in, maybe for your benefit, you as a startup, innovators, who sees today information is so accessible, and a lot of things happening everywhere, and so what should we do? कहाँ के काम गर्ने त के कुरा गर्दाखेरि भोलि त्यसलाई कमर्सियलाइज गरेर बेनिफिट एज एन इन्डिभिजुअल एज एन इन्डस्ट्री हामीले बिल्ड गर्न सक्छौँ त द्याट कुड बी सम अफ द क्वेसन्स यु माइट ह्याभ इन योर माइन्ड राइट आई जोइन्ड ब्याङ्क लङ ब्याक इट वाज लेट 90s हो जब .com पनि बुम भएर कोल्याप्स हुँदै थियो अनि हामी भर्खर टेक्नोलोजी इन्थुजियास्टहरू भएर चाहिँ भनौँ न ब्याङ्किङ सेक्टरमा छिरेको थियौँ एन्ड वी युज टु थिङ्क द्याट कि बिल्ड भनेको भनौँ न एउटा प्रिन्टर बिग्रियो भने पनि हामी त्यसको चिप लेभलसम्म पनि गएर चाहिँ बनाउनु पर्छ भन्ने कन्सेप्ट अवधारणाबाट हामी आएको थियौँ सो वी युज टु एक्चुली थिङ्क द्याट कि वी सुड डु एभ्रिथिङ स्लोली त्यो कतातिर गयो भने आई थिङ्क कोर र नन कोर भन्ने चाहिँ इन्डस्ट्रिजहरूले थाहा पाउन थाल्यो आफ्नो हामीले आफूले इन्टरनली गर्ने हाम्रो कोर बिजनेस के हो र अरू चिजहरू चाहिँ कसरी एउटा चाहिँ टेक्नोलोजी सपोर्ट पार्टनर्सबाट लिँदै जानुपर्छ भनेर द्याट इज कल्ड द पार्टनरसिप or the alliances. Today, more and more, and I'll just to cut short the whole story, long story. Today, with the globalization, with the help of a lot of partners, integration is becoming more and more important, right? Rather than creating solution, developing solution. How can we integrate many things to one which can actually help solving the client's problem? So let me come to actually again client approach. अब त्यो भन्नु खोजेको मैले हैन कि you don't build, you don't be the innovator, and you don't start creating things, but we should really start looking at whether like आजको डेटमा you must have heard like cloud को पनि धेरै कुरा हुन्छ है. Cloud in itself is not solution, right? It's just a platform. We have to make use of cloud with some solution which can help actually someone, right? So there should be need of that. In banking, what we are struggling today, now I think let me come to the point and what we are doing also, right? And with that summarizing, and I can, take some feedback on that. Especially, I think the old banks or the universal banks which are large and they have got long history of banking, right? Change is very, very difficult. Change, I think some of my colleagues also actually, they have also mentioned that change. Change, we don't want to change, right? But if you really ask me that any newcomer which is starting a business from the scratch, those are the newer banks manincha, it's so easy for them. Because they are actually adopting some of the things which succeeded, and they are actually ignoring things which didn't work or which failed. It's easy for them. So for bigger banks, it's difficult for a change. So that's where like you can see all the global banks, there will be one thematic kind of initiative they will be taking is to be more agile. Agile is a practice. It is not in itself any solution. It's agile, how to become agile, more agile. So that's one cultural change that is happening across. I'm not talking about my bank only, it's across the globe. Secondly, all the time we used to think solution from a kind of technical solution perspective, right? Rather than looking at how client will perceive that solution and how they will take it. And we try to actually fix problems in a piecemeal basis. Now, there's a concept of front to back kind of approach, okay? So means when we are solving a problem within an organization, we need to actually solve in taking customers' requirement in view and solve it end to end. So there's basically a focus on the customer value streams that is beyond the client journey is what we call. Our client journey, if I may go deeper, I said payments. Is a good date my bank board of payment हुँदाखेरि funds transfer from one bank to another bank हुँदाखेरि जुन process गरेर voucher गरेर deposit गर्ने त्यसलाई transfer कसैले operation ले पठाउने उता गर्ने, that just got actually cut off by just integrating everything, right? So that payment ecosystem has been now as a very common, and we forget that how we used to do that. If you really ask me again, your bank ma digitization ko success rate bhaneko chahi, we are the second largest industry in itself actually, from after technology and telecommunication, we are highly successful in digitizing, but the success rate is only 40%. Even in this industry. So let's not be afraid of failures, which means there could be failure on experimentation that we do, and a lot of experimentations are happening. So what we are saying is, firstly, don't really go ahead with actually just implementing solutions, okay? And as a startup, as an innovator, you might actually think that, oh wow, this is something that maybe I can propose and go ahead and, you know, offer to some companies. But before that, I think the most important aspect of that is that that solution should fit for the purpose of that organization, okay? And like I said, like in the journeys, one is transaction processing. Nepal ma ramroसँग हुन थालिसक्यो. अब onboarding or account opening को हामी जुन एउटा चाहिँ stage मा गइरहेको छौं. Yeah. So that we are going ahead with that. And borrowing money, which is on the lending side, we can actually do much more on the more instant lending loans जुन start भइसकेको छ. And lastly, I think from the government infrastructure perspective, okay, couple of things which is pending like credit bureau plus even national IT infrastructure. If these things as an enabler comes up, a lot of things will be much easier from banking digitization perspective. Thank you.
Thank you, Sujiju. अहिलेसम्म हाम्रो त्यति इन्टरेक्टिभ विल टेक क्वेसन. We can take questions. This will be a session. Samuji, बहिनी हामीहरू अलिकति क्वेसन एक दुईवटा माइक घुमाइदियो भने क्वेसन आन्सर भयो भने इन्टरेक्टिभ हुन्छ. भात खाएर सबै आँखा ड्याम ड्याम भइसक्यो. त भइसक्यो अलिकति जगाउनलाई उयो अलिकति उयो गर्नुपर्ने. इफ यु हेभ एनी क्वेसन जस्ट रेज ह्यान्ड, माइक्रोफोन विल कम. तपाईँहरू क्वेसन सोध्नुहोस्. त्यो भन्दै चाहिँ म एक दुईवटा अलिकति म भनिदिइहाल्छु कि यो ट्रान्सफर्मेसनमा चाहिँ नि एउटा कुरा चाहिँ हाम्रो सोसाइटल ट्रान्सफर्मेसनमा चाहिँ अब जस्तै अब अहिले हामीले विचार गर्यो भने वुमेन एम्पावरमेन्ट युएसहरुको है तिर by 2050 they are expecting according to the whoever does the global census, they are expecting a population collapse. अब यो चाहिँ के भयो, इन्डस्ट्रियलाइज नेशन्स वुमेन एकदम एम्पावर्ड भयो, पढ्यो, यता भयो, नानी कम्ती जन्मायो है, अन्त हौ यस्तो पाराले चाहिँ जति डेभलप हुँदै जान्छ उनीहरुको पपुलेसन कोल्याप्स हुन्छ. बट पपुलेसन इज अगेन नीडेड बिकज यु नीड देम टु फीड इन्टु पे टैक्सेस एन्ड अगेन कीप दैट साइकल अफ keeping a health care and all the infrastructure and all intact. So there's a big problem coming there. That's one. The other thing that I was thinking was, Dipesh Bistaju in the morning he talked about question सोध्नुहोस् है, कहाँ छ हात उठाउनुहोस् माइक्रोफोन आउँछ. म यहाँ बकबक गर्छु, तपाई कहाँ छ हात उठाउनुहोस् माइक्रोफोन आउँछ.
Okay. So यति बेला चाहिँ हाम्रो प्यानलिस्टहरु हुनुहुन्छ, यहाँहरुले उहाँहरुको कुरा सुनिराख्नु भएको छ, केही प्रश्नहरु रहेको छन्, प्लिज ह्यान्ड रेज गर्नु होला अथवा उभिनु होला. द माइक्रोफोन विल कम राइट टु यु एन्ड यु क्यान इन्टरेक्ट विथ आवर प्यानलिस्ट राइट हियर. सो कोही हुनुहुन्छ भने कृपया हात उठाइदिनु होला. केही प्रश्न रहेका छन् अबाउट डिजिटल ट्रान्सफर्मेसन भने, or else Karmachi is right.
We are all very boring panelists on the stage. Please stop us from talking. Put your hand up. Others will keep talking. We're threatening you now.
Exactly. अन्त अब तपाईँहरू हात उठाउनुहोस् है माइक्रोफोन पुग्छ तर मिन्टमा ऊ आयो उहाँ क्वेसन सोधिहाल्नुहोस्
There's a lady there? Or gender, yeah. There's gender.
भन्नुहोस् लु
I believe we do have a question here.
The second question, after that, hands up.
So I believe हामीले एउटा अथवा दुईटा मात्र प्रश्न लिन मिल्छ. So have we got two people from the audience?
Yeah.
So कृपया उभिदिनु होला जसले प्रश्न सोध्न खोजिराख्नु भएको छ.
Hello.
यहाँको शुभ नाम, यहाँको इन्ट्रोडक्सन दिनुहोस् अनि प्रश्न छोटकरीमा राख्दिनु होला.
नेपालीमा सोध्ने कि इङ्ग्लिसमा?
Whichever.
How Web 3.0 changed the digitalization of economy?
How will Web 3.0?
Yeah.
Can I take a shot? All right. So Web 3.0 is basically putting, to repeat the question, how will Web 3.0 help the economy in a different way? Essentially, if you say the Web 1.0 allowed you to search and find information, Web 2.0 allowed you to personalize information, Web 3.0 personalizes currency, right? That's a big thing. So assets start moving.
Can I add one more question?
Sure, please.
Sir, please.
Yes, please.
Sorry to interrupt, but our World Cup pitching sessions, American friends are staying awake. Okay, they are in midnight. So and our next session, the chairman of the session is already here. So I would like to request you to sum up as soon as possible. Thank you.
So basically, Web 3.0 puts your money on the internet and allows you to securely control it. Now, this is a worry to some governments. So we know that there are problems in Nepal. We know in India, it's in a strange situation, like Schrodinger's cat. It's not alive, but it's not dead, but nobody knows. In the sense that it is not illegal. It may be illegal, but if you do it, you have to pay tax on it, which is a very strange situation. So, for example, companies like Dubai have taken about 1,000 people from the crypto industry in India have moved off to Dubai because Dubai is now 1,500 crypto companies, the capital of crypto in the world. So they're very Web 3.0 focused. It'll completely change it. It'll allow, so I think my friend Sujit may not want to see it because it takes the banks out of the equation. It allows you to pay money to somebody else without going through a bank, etc. It makes banks nervous. It makes governments nervous. It makes every existing person nervous, which is why you should do it.
Okay. Thank you so much, Maheshji. I believe you got the answer, whoever asked the question.
One question, last question.
Last one question, very short. If there is anyone, please raise your hand or stand up.
इन्डियाको चाहिँ सक्सेस जुन चाहिँ छ नि इट हेज कम फ्रम फर इक्जाम्पल डिजिटल ट्रान्सफर्मेसन भन्छ तर लास्ट अब एक डेकेड भनौँ न डेकेडको चाहिँ जुन चाहिँ मेजर उयो छ त्यो चाहिँ इन्डिया स्ट्याकको चाहिँ पुरा प्रमोसन जुन चाहिँ आइडेन्टिटी पेमेन्ट हो अन्त अब कनेक्टिभिटी तीन चिजमा चाहिँ फोकस गरेर जुन जनधन आधार मोबाइल भन्छ हौ यसले चाहिँ सक्सेसफुल बनाएको उहाँ के भन्छ श्रेष्ठज्यूले पनि त्यही भन्नुहुँदै थियो कि यो चाहिँ अब गभर्मेन्ट लेभलबाट पोलिसी गराएर त्यो स्ट्याक बनायो भने अरू सबैले युज गर्न सक्छ एपिआई त हो अब त्यस्तो पाराले युज गर्न सक्छ एनपिसिआईको इन्डियाको युपिआई 1 बिलियन ट्रान्ज्याक्सन पर डे गर्छ आजको तारिकमा एकदमै अब सरकारले बनाएको चिजहरू हो यस्तो चाहिँ त्यस्तो पाराले चाहिँ ट्रान्सफर्मेसन हुन्छ लु सेकेन्ड क्वेसन सोध्नुहोस् अन्त हामीहरू यहाँ क्लोज पनि गरेर लु
So till the question comes, I just want to add a few points because there are startups in the audience. One, I know there was a lot of talk that money will come, venture capital will come. I can tell you, and even the earlier person told you that for whatever reason we've been trying to get our money into Nepal, the government is not allowing us, right? So you can hear all the talk, but money is likely not to come till for whatever happens, right? And there is a downside to it. The reason is not just the government. I believe many big businesses don't want you to get the money because when we come in and we give you money, there was a case where a few years ago, I was looking at a startup and I liked the technology. I said, I'll give you 2 crore rupees. I just want 10% of the company. That means the founder had 18 crore rupees worth of value. I was not allowed to bring the money. He had to sell the entire company for 12 lakh rupees. So instead of getting 18 crores, he got 12 lakhs. That's it, right? So simply because big businesses may not want us to come in because they want to keep control. So don't depend on funding. Do whatever you can yourself. Get your money. Focus on getting the money and grow. And later on, the strange thing about funding is when you don't want it, everybody gives it. Yeah. When you want it, nobody gives it. So first thing, get your own funding done. Don't depend too much on businesses. Second, in terms of policy, I think broadly the policy of even India and many other countries, maybe Nepal, is you're guilty
till we prove you're proven innocent. Maybe if you change it to you're innocent till you're proven guilty. You know, as in, for everything we have to beg for permission. I prefer a policy where you do it and you have to beg for forgiveness if you've done something wrong. I think that is an opinion change and an attitude change. Don't beg for permission, beg for forgiveness. मतलब कर दो, उसके बाद sorry बोल दो, right? As opposed to saying sir करूँ क्या, and so on and so forth, right? So my entire thing is do it yourself. I only say that because after 5 years, I would love to see change happen. I would love to see money in. I'm not allowed to bring my money in, so it's okay. Maybe change will happen. It can happen tomorrow, next year, whatever. But don't wait on your life for somebody to give you money. Please go ahead, do it yourself. Yeah, thanks.
Okay.
Thank you.
Can I speak?
Thank you so much.
Can I speak?
Yeah, please. Sir,
Please.
continue.
Yes, please.
Well, I thought I should speak because I say I'm not able to speak. I suggest the organization be more organized in a proper manner. This is an official panel and I have a time, right? I came here with a time. I have office to work. So I suggest, I said in the beginning. So let me give an example of Nepal. Have you heard something called anytime toilet? Thank you. And anytime toilet is a concept that was developed by two Nepalese young engineer. They were actually not even graduate. And it developed by these two Nepalese. It's a small startup. And now in Sri Lanka, it is used by more than 6,000 restaurants, providing the public toilet. This is one of the remarkable startup in our context. But the problem was, that concept was taken up by the Sri Lankans, and they paid for it, I guess, and they started it in Sri Lanka. It's successfully running. But why we are not able to do the same thing here, even though it was developed by the two Nepalese youth in their early 20s? The simple was the regulations. Regulations was not favorable in their context. So we need to have regulations that support this kind of startup, right? One is the regulations that we need to look into. So I can see there are lots of people who are trying to change the digital landscape, as we are doing from our company. I'm not trying to talking about my company, but would like to see the change that I'm seeing because of the digital transformation. Let me give an example. When you talk about the cooperatives, in Nepalese context, basically the cooperatives are for the older generation. For our grandfather, for our mother, for our father, or for our mother, or fupus, mamas, right? For these people, not for the younger generation. But now, with the changing of the fintech in Nepalese context, even in the cooperatives, now 35 lakh people are using applications developed by our company. The cooperative member, and many of them are the young people. Now you see, the cooperative being attracted, then cooperatives are able to attract the youth because of the digital technologies they are using, they are introducing. So I see lots of changes. I have lots of story to share. It is not of the infotech. In the organization that I worked before, in the Nepal Police for 25 years, I have seen the digital transformation in the youth. How youth are using social media, for example. How they have used in the Nepalese context. How they have changed the landscape of the whole digital landscape of Nepalese context through social media, through any applications. But the problem is the government. Government need to move faster. And I can see the Honorable Secretary of the Ministry is here already. So government is trying to need to move faster than what they are doing right now. So I clearly see the government needs to adopt the technology faster and faster. And then we see fintech is already there, lots of technology already there, youth are in the tech savvy, and English speaking population is in large number, and we have that potential. I think we are sitting at the threshold. And you will see that, I could see in the crowd also, there is one of the CEO of the startup company, 6 years old, in anti-money laundering. She is here. She is participating. She's here in expectation that she can be visible, right? So we need some investment for sure. So I think this kind of event will eventually brought some kind of investment locally from outside as well. We can see lots of investment coming Nepal through the business oxygen, for example. Any other investment, they are coming. Multinational companies are buying Nepali IT company, for example, the old bank, and lots of investment coming. Even other businesses are investing in IT company, for example, the IME group, right? So the threshold is coming. So I think the people like you will eventually change this kind of landscape in near future. This is what I'd like to add. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Rajiv Chuppa. And I believe with this, we are nearly to the end of our today's this very third session. Thank you so much, gentlemen. And we conduct this session without our chair of the session and moderator, but it went superbly well. We are very much grateful to all the panelists right here. We'd like to thank Mahesh Murthy, founder director of Exceed Space, Karma Bhutia, startup ecosystem expert, Lokraz Sharma, chairman of Social Entrepreneurship Council NR in Denmark, Dr. Rajiv Subba, chief operating officer of Info Developers, Mr. Sujit Shrestha, Chief Operating Officer of Standard Chartered Bank. Ladies and gentlemen, a huge round of applause to our panelists for digital transformation, RegTech innovation. So with this, we'd like to present token of love to all our panelists right here, and very, very thank you and congratulations as well. So to do the honors, we'd like to request Dr. Shambhu Pokhriyal to present a token of love to our panelists. And it was really amazing. My God. I'm super mesmerized right here. So ladies and gentlemen, after this, we'll be heading on to our another session, which is Global Innovation and Nepal's Position. And we'll be starting our World Cup pitch deck, which will be at 3 p.m. Right today. So we do have just next 32 minutes, 28 minutes, I believe. So yes, here we have presenting token of love to Mr. Mahesh Murthy, founder, director of Exceed Space. Thank you so much, sir. Likewise, we do have Mr. Sujit Shrestha, chief operating officer of Standard Chartered Bank. Thank you. Also, we do have Mr. Lokraz Sharma, chairman of Social Entrepreneurship Council NR in Denmark. Thank you so much. Well, we do have Karma Bhutia ji once again. So thank you so much. We got all token of love again and again. So we'd like to take a group picture right here with all our panelists. And we'll be heading on to another session. And I'm very sorry, another session will be very short because we are shorting out of time. So probably we'll be having only 26 minutes for now, maybe 25 minutes of the session. And we'll be heading on to the World Cup pitch deck. Thank you so much, gentlemen. Once again, a huge round of applause to all our panelists right here, ladies and gentlemen. I believe you all are enjoying the day, and many of you have been taking many learnings here from this event as well too. So without any delay, we would like to head on to our another and very final session of the day. Global Innovation and Nepal's Position. For this, we'd like to welcome Chair of the session, also moderator for this session, Dr. Vaikuntha Aryal, Secretary, Ministry of ICT. A huge round of applause, ladies and gentlemen. Here we do have Dr. Vaikuntha Aryal. I believe he's here, if I'm not wrong. Okay, he's right here. So, ladies and gentlemen, Dr. Vaikuntha Aryal right here. Thank you so much, sir. So we'd like to now introduce the panelists for this session. Hempal Shrestha, co-founder of Nepal Entrepreneurs Hub. A very warm welcome, sir. Likewise, we do have Mr. Sudeep Acharya, Managing Director of Dish Home. A very warm welcome. We need our clappings together right here. Please put your hands together. We do have Mr. Eknath Khatiyora, founder of Africa Ventures. Thank you. So yes, ladies and gentlemen, this is session for Global Innovation Nepal's Position, and we do have as our chair of the session and moderator, Dr. Vaikuntha Aryal, Secretary of Minister of ICT right here. Likewise, we do have Mr. Hempal Shrestha, co-founder of Nepal Entrepreneurs Hub. We do have Sudeep Acharya, Managing Director of Dish Home. Also, we do have Eknath Khatiyora, founder of Africa Ventures. And now over to you, sir. And I would like to request we need to start the pitch right at 3 because all our international guests have been waiting in our social media networks. So thank you so much, sir. And yes, mic is over to you now.
Okay, thank you. Namaskar. Tinai panelists Nepali हुनुहुँदो रहेछ नेपालीमा गर्दा नि हुन्छ होला है. Most of the audiences are Nepali, so let's talk in Nepali. धन्यवाद आयोजकहरूलाई अब विषयवस्तुको बारेमा धेरै कुरोहरू गरिराख्नु परेन। डिजिटल इनोभेसनमा चाहिँ नि नेपाल कहाँ स्ट्यान्ड गर्छ भन्ने कुरोमा अलिकति छलफल गरौँ होला। अब डिजिटल इनोभेसनको सन्दर्भमा हामी अलि पछाडि थियौँ होला, तर केही कुरोहरूमा अलिअलि राम्रैसँग फड्को पनि मारेका छौँ। 1990s को दशकदेखि आजसम्म आइपुग्दाखेरि सर्टेन चेन्जेसहरू भएको छ, रेभोल्युसन नै भएको छ केही सेक्टरमा, त्यो पक्कै पनि हो। हिजोका दिनसम्म कल्पना गर्न नसकिने कुरोहरू पनि हामीले झ्यापझ्याप ल्याएका पनि छौँ, जुन कुरोले एउटा डिजिटलाइजेसन अफ गुड्स एन्ड सर्भिसेस मात्रै होइन कि हाम्रो डिजिटल इकोनोमीलाई अगाडि बढाउनको लागि पनि सर्टेन कुरोहरूमा चाहिँ हामी अगाडि बढेका छौँ। यद्यपि अब संसार जुन हिसाबले अगाडि बढेको छ त्यो पेस हामीले समाउन सकेका छौँ कि छैनौँ भन्ने कुरो क्वेसनको ठाउँ होला नै। तथापि हाम्रो स्रोत साधनको उपलब्धता र हाम्रो जस्तो डिफिकल्ट टेराइन भएको देश सँगसँगै जियो पोलिटिक्स र जियो फिजिकल लोकेसन जुनमा छौँ हामी, यो सबैको उसमा हाम्रो प्रगतिलाई त्यति धेरै साह्रै छि भन्नुपर्ने पनि छैन, तर गर्नुपर्ने धेरै कुरोहरू छन्। यही हिसाबमा वेयर आर वी भनेर अलिकति आज छलफल गरौँ। त्यसपछि साथीहरूले आफ्नो केही कुरोहरू राख्नुहुन्छ, यहाँहरूले आफ्नै कामहरू गर्दाखेरि पनि हाउ डिड यु पर्सिभ अल दिस थिङ्स, कसरी यो च्यालेन्जिङ दुनियाँमा आउने आँट गर्नुभयो जस्तो सुदेवजीलाई होइन सबैथरी चाहिँ यो कुरोहरूदेखि लिएर सुरु गर्छु। हेमपालजी अलि अगाडिदेखि नै यो विषयमा बेला बेलामा मसँग पनि छलफल भइरहेको थियो, बेला बेलामा उहाँहरूले कुरा गरिराख्नुहुन्थ्यो, उहाँसँग अलिकति ओभरअल ब्रोड पर्सपेक्टिभमा कुरा गर्छु र एकनाथजीसँग अफ्रिका पनि भन्नुभएको छ होइन। त्यसैले गर्दाखेरि हाउ डु यु कम्पेयर र हाउ डु यु थिङ्क द्याट where we are and what we should do भन्ने कुरोमा चाहिँ अलिकति जानु पर्ला। पहिला किन यहाँ आइपुग्नु भयो, के देखेर आउनुभयो भनेर सुदीपजीबाट सुरु गर्छु र अनि कस्तो छ अवस्थाबाट सुरु गरौँला।
Thank you, Hazur. Good afternoon, everybody. We're talking about startup, we're talking about digitalization. यो सन्दर्भमा चाहिँ अब म इन्डिभिजुअली भन्दा पनि अब एज एन अर्गनाइजेसन डिस होमको कुरा गर्ने हो भने वी वर वान अफ दि हाम्रो इन्डस्ट्रीमा टेलिभिजन डिस्ट्रिब्युसनको इन्डस्ट्रीमा वी वर द फर्स्ट वान टु डिजिटलाइज। त्यसको बेनिफिट्सहरू चाहिँ वी कुड सी इन डिफ्रेन्ट लेभल्स। जस्तो हाम्रो चाहिँ भ्युअरहरूले पाउने क्वालिटीमा अफ भ्युइङ टेलिभिजन वाज चेन्ज्ड। एज अ बिजनेस इट्स अ गुड बिजनेस। राज्यले पाउने ट्याक्सेसन आदि इत्यादिमा पनि त्यसले ठुलो फड्को मार्यो। हामीले हाम्रो मात्र क्यालकुलेट गर्दाखेरि पनि लास्ट यो 10 इयर्स 11 इयर्समा विभिन्न किसिमका करहरू हामीले सङ्कलन गरेर राज्यलाई बुझाएको हिसाब गर्दाखेरि अलमोस्ट 900 करोड जति छुन लागेको रहेछ। जबकि त्योभन्दा अगाडि यो in this industry, there was a negligible amount of money collected by the government. Digitalization गर्ने भनेको नै I think it's more clearer pictureहरू देखाउँछ and level playing fieldहरू चाहिँ सजिलो बनाउँछ अथवा चाहिँ भनौँ न कसैले चाहिँ undue advantageहरू पाउँदैन। त्यसले चाहिँ एउटा constant growth चाहिँ अगाडि बढाउँछ भन्ने देखिन्छ। अब यही इन्डस्ट्रीकै कुरा गर्दाखेरि त्यसले चाहिँ अब नयाँ भनौँ न डिजिटल प्लेटफर्मबाटै गर्दाखेरि नयाँ अब स्टार्टअपसँग मैले रिलेट त गरेँ तर बिजनेसको आइडियाजहरू चाहिँ नयाँ नयाँ कुराहरू निस्कियो भनौँ न। जस्तो हामीले चाहिँ जस्तो फिल्महरू मुभिजहरू टेलिभिजनमै पे गरेर देखाउने एउटा सिस्टम निकाल्यौँ। यसपालि इन्ट्रेस्टिङली यसपालि वर्ल्ड कप आउँदैछ, आई थिङ्क एभ्रीबडी नोज। यसलाई पनि एउटा चाहिँ पे मोडलमा लिएर जाने भनेर कुरा भइरहेछ। त्यसले हुन त अब फेरि पेमा गर्दाखेरि अरू भनौँ न सित्तैमा हेर्न पाइरहेको भन्ने पनि सोच होला, तर एक्चुअली इट्स अ बिजनेस मोडल के। किनभने हामी डिजिटल राइट्सको कुराहरू गरिरहेछौँ अहिले होइन। त्यसले गर्दाखेरि अर्को एउटा इन्डस्ट्री ग्रो भइरहेछ। नेपाली कन्टेन्टहरूको कन्जम्सन बढिरहेछ बिकज पिपल आर पेइङ फर इट। त्यो पे नगर्दाखेरि चाहिँ त्यो भ्यालु गेन हुँदैन अनि वी आर अलवेज डिपेन्डेन्ट अन फरेन कन्टेन्ट फरेन च्यानल्स तर पे मोडलमा जाने बित्तिकै चाहिँ द इन्डस्ट्री डेभलप्स अनि हाम्रो आफ्नै हामीले खोजेको हामीले चाहेको कुराहरू चाहिँ डेभलप हुँदै जान्छ अब यो इन्डस्ट्री सँगसँगै अब हामीले भनौँ न यही उसमै जाँदाखेरि अब इन्टरनेट हामीले प्रोभाइड गरिरहेको छौँ डिसम फाइबर नेट दिस इज अल्सो नदर हाम्रो चाहिँ अगाडि बढ्ने एउटा जुन ऊ छ डिजिटल प्लेटफर्ममै छ त्यसमा पनि मैले आफ्नो एकदम पर्सनल एक्सपिरियन्स पनि छ होइन कसरी यसले चाहिँ हाउ इट क्यान ग्रो यो स्पेसली स्टार्टअप्सलाई नै भन्दाखेरि म आई वाज इन युनाइटेड स्टेट्स 1999मा म खास पढ्न गएको मास्टर्स गर्नलाई आई स्टार्टेड सेलिङ पस्मिनाज अनलाइन ओके है त्यो अनलाइन मैले पस्मिना बेच्दा बेच्दै इट वाज पोसिबल आई वाज इन अ भेरी स्मल टाउन फेटविल आर्कन्सा भनेको गाउँ नै हो त्यहाँबाट मैले आई युज टु सेल अल ओभर द वर्ल्ड एन्ड द्याट वाज क्रिएटेड बाई द इन्टरनेट डोमेन के आज नेपालमाबाट पनि मैले अस्ति देखिरहेको थिएँ विराटनगरमा एकजना भाइले चाहिँ हि वाज सेलिङ ट्रेडिसनल क्लोथ्स इन्डिजिनियस क्लोथ्स अनि अनलाइन बेच्छु भनिरहेको थियो आई स माइसेल्फ इन हेम है त्यसै कारण यो आई थिङ्क वी आर गोइङ टुवर्ड्स द राइट डिरेक्सन एज अ कन्ट्री एज अ
हुन्छ सुदेवजी म फेरि आउँछु केही कुरोहरूमा अब सब पक्कै पनि यहाँ पछि पनि क्वेसन्सहरू आइहाल्छ किन पे गरेर गर्ने भन्ने कुरो चाहिँ आउँछ अब म इकोनोमिक्सको पनि विद्यार्थी होइन देयर इज नो फ्री लन्च त भनिन्छ तर पनि वेन यु क्यान गेट द फ्री लन्च देन वाइ सुड यु गो लाइन अप फर पेइङ द थिङ्स भन्ने कुरो पनि सँगै आउँछ पछि कुरा गरौँला एकनाथजी के देख्नुहुन्छ
Thank you, sir. First of all, thank you, Sambhuji, for inviting me for this very interesting panel. Actually, I was just refusing initially, but then I thought that it's very interesting to share some perspective. म नेपालीमै बोल्छु होला मैले चाहिँ धेरै जसो यो भर्खरै नेपालमा फर्केर आएको म अफ्रिकामा मैले अलमोस्ट 13 इयर्स जति विभिन्न एसएमइजहरू इनोभेसनहरू प्रमोट गर्दै थिएँ त्यहाँनिर विभिन्न एजेन्सीहरूसँग त्यसै गरी इन्डियामा मोस्टली आन्ध्र प्रदेश बेङ्गलोरमा मैले आफैले अब्जर्भ गरेँ त्यहाँको टेक्नोलोजी इनोभेसनहरू कसरी डेभलप भइरहेको छ भनेर म युएनडिपीमा काम गर्दाखेरि त्यसै गरी म फिलिपिन्स म्यानमार रिसेन्टली म म्यानमारमा थिएँ त्यहाँ कसरी प्राइभेट सेक्टरले अहिले चाहिँ पोलिटिकल्ली क्राइसिस भए पनि त्यहाँको प्राइभेट सेक्टर कसरी मुभिङ भइरहेको थियो त्यहाँको इनोभेसनहरू कसरी अगाडि बढिरहेको थियो भन्ने कुरो मैले क्लोजली अब्जर्भ गर्ने मौका पाएको थिएँ त्यसै ह्याभिङ लर्न अल दिस द पर्सपेक्टिभ लेसन लर्न नेपालमा अल्सो हामीले केही स्टार्टअपहरू सुरु गऱ्यौँ यहाँ जस्तै अफ्रिकामा हामीले 200-300जना साथीहरू मिलेर अब नेपालमा के गरौँ भनेर चाहिँ स्टार्टअप कम्पनीहरू खोलौँ सपोर्ट गरौँ भनेर हामीले चाहिँ एउटा अफ्रिका भेन्चर भन्ने मैले रिप्रेजेन्ट गर्छु अफ्रिका भेन्चर र हामीले चाहिँ 100 मिलियन नेपालीज रुपिजको अफ्रिका भेन्चर के अरे कम्पनी खोलेका छौँ र त्यसै गरी हामीले मुना मार्ट भन्ने र विभिन्न र ग्लोबल एग्रो अहिले हामीले एग्रिकल्चर सेक्टरमा पनि काम गर्ने भनेर स्टार्टअप कम्पनीहरू हामीले सुरु गरेका थियौँ हाम्रो साथीहरूलाई मोटिभेट गरेका छौँ र ह्याभिङ सेड द्याट स्टार्टअपको कुरा गर्दाखेरि चाहिँ अब यहाँ ग्लोबल पर्सपेक्टिभ हेर्दाखेरि नेपाल चाहिँ एकदमै इज टु बिहाइन्ड नाउ इफ रिसेन्टली आई वाज रिडिङ अ रिपोर्ट काइन्ड अफ दि ओल्ड इनोभेसन फोरमको रिपोर्ट हेर्दाखेरि चाहिँ 126 कन्ट्रीमा चाहिँ नेपाल अराउन्ड 108 इन्डेक्समा आउँछ भनेपछि हामी स्टिल इज फार बिहाइन्ड हाम्रो इको सिस्टमले काम नगरेको हो कि अथवा हाम्रो पोलिसिजहरू र हाम्रो चाहिँ अब स्टार्टअप सपोर्ट सिस्टमहरू चाहिँ नभएको हो कि जस्तो देखिन्छ र त्यसै गरी अब स्टार्टअप भन्नाले अथवा चाहिँ इनोभेसन डिजिटलाइजेसन कुरा गर्छौँ तर हामीले क्याटेगोराइजेसन गर्न सकेका छैनौँ नेपालमा टेक्नोलोजी लाई फिनटेक आफ्नै एउटा चाहिँ पर्सपेक्टिभ छ र हेल्थ टेक एग्रिटेक HR tech, education tech. These are the major categories of the innovation. So if we are looking any digitalization or any technology, you have to look that perspective. अर्को कुरा मैले के चाहिँ एउटा ग्याप फिल गर्ने नेपालमा भन्दाखेरि ब्रान्डिङ हामी जहिले पनि बाहिरको टेक्नोलोजी ल्याउने हैन र अनि उनीहरूको मार्केटिङ गर्ने त्यो होइन इनोभेसन गर्नु छ स्टार्टअप गर्नु छ भने आफ्नै ब्रान्डिङ बनाऊ आफ्नै टेक्नोलोजी आफ्नै लोकल मार्केटलाई के सुहाउँछ त्यो कुरामा जाउँ हैन तर हाम्रो चाहिँ अलिकति पर्सपेक्टिभ अलिकति हामी चेन्ज गर्नुपर्ने हुन्छ जहाँ पनि मैले इनोभेसनहरू सफल भएको देखेँ जुन इनोभेसनले चाहिँ लोकल मार्केट अपर्च्युनिटीलाई उनीहरूले चाहिँ ग्राप्स गरे उनीहरूले लिइरहेको देखेको छु मैले र ग्लोबल मार्केट अनि हामीले रिप्लिकेट गर्ने हो बाहिर हामीले चाहिँ बाहिर पठाउने हो हाम्रो टेक्नोलोजी। जस्तै हामी सफ्टवेयरमा हामी च्याम्पियन छौँ, नेपाली सफ्टवेयर अहिले बाहिर चाहिँ अमेरिकन कम्पनीहरूले र विभिन्न कम्पनीले युज गरिराख्नु भएको छ भने हामी किन आफ्नै ब्रान्डलाई प्रमोट नगर्ने? र त्यो मैले देखेँ एउटा। र अर्को चाहिँ इकोसिस्टम, हामी अहिले धेरै कुरा गऱ्यौँ गभर्मेन्टको पोलिसीहरू, र स्टार्टअप त्यसै सफल हुँदैन। र इकोसिस्टम भन्नाले एक्सिलेटर चाहियो, इन्क्युबेटर चाहियो, फाइनेन्सिङ चाहियो, इन्भेस्टमेन्ट चाहियो। जस्तै इन्डियामा हेर्नुहुन्छ भन्दाखेरि इन्डियामा जहिले पनि म नेपालको इनोभेसन इन्डियासँग कम्पेयर गर्छु। म इन्डियामा पनि काम गर्ने भएको हुनाले मैले त्यहाँ क्लोजली अब्जर्भ गरेँ। इन्डियामा अघि कुरा भइसक्यो, $23 बिलियन चाहिँ इनोभेसनले एफडिआई एट्र्याक्ट गरेको छ। र त्यहाँ चाहिँ hundreds अफ डिल्स एभ्री डे हुन्छ। र 42 स्टार्टअप कम्पनी त उनीहरू युनिकोर्नमा गइसक्यो होइन, तपाईँले बुझ्नु त टर्महरू। र अहिले चाहिँ भर्खरै नम्बर अफ कम्पनीहरू चाहिँ त्यो लाइनमा गइरहेको छ इन्डियामा भनेपछि हामी पनि त्यो इन्डियाको लेसन लर्नबाट हामीले चाहिँ के गर्न सकिन्छ होला। र मेजर 3वटा कुरा भने मैले गभर्मेन्टको हिसाबले हेर्दाखेरि, जस्तै इन्डियामा हेर्दाखेरि डिजिटलाइज इन्डिया, स्टार्टअप इन्डिया र मेक इन इन्डिया, यो 3वटा स्लोगनले चाहिँ इन्डियाको इनोभेसनलाई एकदम प्रमोट गरेको देखिन्छ। त्यो कुरा चाहिँ मैले हाम्रो चाहिँ गभर्मेन्टको रिप्रेजेन्टेटिभ सर यही हुनुभएको हुनाले यो 3वटा कुरालाई चाहिँ अलिकति अगाडि बढाइदिनु भयो भनेदेखि।
सेकेन्ड राउन्डमा एकैछिन आउँछु क्विकली नै। हेमपालजी 2टा कुरोमा अलिकति फोकस गर्नु होला। टेक्नोलोजी एडप्सन एउटा पाटो भयो, टेक्नोलोजी डेभलपमेन्टमा चाहिँ वे होइन, त्यो चाहिँ जस्तो अघि भन्नुभयो नि नेपाली सफ्टवेयरको कुरोहरू, आफ्नो ब्रान्डिङका कुरोहरू, अनि टेक्नोलोजी एडप्सनमा त अब केही न केही कुरोहरू छौँ, तर त्यसलाई पनि हामीले कुन हिसाबमा प्रयोग गरिरहेछौँ भन्ने चाहिँ एकदम क्विकली भन्नु पर्ला। यहाँ अघि मलाई बहिनीले चाहिँ म सरले त 3 बजीभन्दा अगाडि सकिदिनुपर्छ भन्नुभएको थियो, त्यो त अलिक गाह्रै होला। तथापि
धन्यवाद श्रीमान सचिवजी, र एकदमै धन्यवाद अर्गनाइजरलाई, श्रीमान सचिवजीकै चेयरम्यानसिपमा चाहिँ यो सेसनमा आज चाहिँ पार्टिसिपेट गर्न पाइयो। मैले सचिवजीले मलाई 2टा कुरामा फोकस गर्ने भन्नुभएको छ। म अलिकति के सचिवजीले जुन सुरुमा नै भन्नुभएको थियो डिजिटल इनोभेसन र नेपाल कहाँ पर्छ भन्ने कुरा, सम्भवतः त्यो धेरै कुराहरू रिपोर्टले नै भन्छ होला, र त्यसमा केही कुराहरू इम्पोर्टेन्ट कुराहरू अलिकति हामीले कसरी त्यो कुरालाई चाहिँ पर्सिभ गर्छौँ, कसरी त्यसलाई चाहिँ त्यो पोलिसीलाई कसरी अन्डरस्ट्यान्ड गर्छौँ भन्ने कुरा चाहिँ त्यो आई थिङ्क त्यो मोर बाई द बुक जान्छ होला। डिजिटल इनोभेसन नेपालमा के पर्छ के छ भन्ने कुरामा चाहिँ म अलिकति राख्छु। र सचिवजीले भन्नुभएको यो 2टा एडप्सन र डेभलपमेन्टको पार्टबाट अलिकति 2 मिनट जति मैले कुरा राख्न चाहेँ। हाम्रो अलिकति अहिलेसम्मको जुन ब्याकग्राउन्ड छ, जुन हाम्रो सोसाइटी, जुन हाम्रो कल्चर, जुन हाम्रो हुन त हामी एजुकेसनमा यो पछिल्लो समयमा हाम्रो भनौँ न फर्मल एजुकेसन हामी गयो भने पनि, तर त्यो इनोभेसनको आस्पेक्ट चाहिँ हाम्रो कल्चर, हाम्रो सोसाइटीमा धेरै पहिलाबाट हामीले देखिरहेको छौँ। चाहे त्यो आर्किटेक्चरको होस्, चाहे त्यो आर्ट एन्ड क्राफ्टको होस्, चाहे त्यो अलिअलि म्याथमेटिक्सको होस्, अलिअलि ट्रेडको होस्, साइन्समा अलिकति। अब डिजिटलमा जाँदाखेरि त्यसले धेरै ठुलो रूप चाहिँ लिँदो रहेछ। अब एडप्सनको केसमा हामीले अलिकति आफूलाई कन्ज्युमरको रूपमा हेर्न सकिन्छ होला होइन। सो आजभन्दा 8-10 वर्ष अगाडि हाम्रो मेजर डिबेट चाहिँ हामी वर्ल्ड एकदम एडभान्स कन्ज्युमर हुने कि वर्ल्डको के अरे टेक्नोलोजीको प्रड्युसर हुने भन्ने कुरा चाहिँ अलिकति म्यासिभ हो। तर अहिले कालान्तरमा के देखिरहेको छ भन्दाखेरि जो सुरुमा कन्ज्युमर भयो उनीहरूले अब बिस्तारै केही न केही इनोभेसन्सहरू अलिकति त्यसलाई जुगाड भनौँ न अहिलेलाई होइन। अब यहाँ धेरै टेक्नोलोजी फर्महरूले नेपालमा बसेर अब यहाँ धेरै त्यो इकोसिस्टममा एक्सन के अरे त्यो इनेबलिङ एक्सन नहुँदाखेरि जुगाडले पनि धेरै कामहरू भएको छ। त्यसलाई इनोभेसनसँग कसरी जोड्ने भन्ने कुरा चाहिँ इम्पोर्टेन्ट जस्तो लाग्छ होइन। अब यहाँ हाम्रो सुदीप सरले हुनुहुन्छ, डिसोमले पनि कतिवटा जुगाड त डेफिनेटली आफ्नोमा भनौँ न सिस्टम डिजाइनदेखि रोल आउटदेखि त्यसमा गर्नुभएको होला भन्ने कुरा त्यो इनोभेसनको पार्टमा। सो के छ भन्दाखेरि त्यो इनोभेसन एम्बेडेड छ जस्तो लाग्छ। कहाँ छौँ मलाई अलिकति भनौँ न डेटातिर म त्यति जान चाहिनँ। तर मैले अहिले जुन संस्थाहरूसँग म अहिले इन्भल्भ भएर काम गरिरहेको छु, नेपालको स्ट्रेन्थ डिजिटलमा कहाँ रहेछ भन्दाखेरि अलिकति यो अलिकति हामी चाहिँ एआर भिआर 3Dतिर जुन हाम्रो चाहिँ आर्ट एन्ड क्राफ्टमा जुन हाम्रो अलिकति इभन यो काठमाडौँलाई नै हेर्नु भयो भने कम्युनिटिजहरू डिफाइन छ, मैथिलीमा छ होइन, त्यो मिथिला आर्ट्सहरू छ, त्यो जुन आर्टहरू छ त्यसलाई अब डिजिटल फर्मेटमा जाँदाखेरि धेरै कामहरू यहाँ भिजिबल मार्केटमा छैन तर ब्याकग्राउन्डमा चाहिँ काम भइरहेको छ। सरले भन्नुभयो जस्तै त्यो डेटामा चाहिँ देखिँदैन, किनभनेदेखि यहाँको इकोसिस्टमले त्यसलाई कसरी इनेबल गर्न सकिरहेको छौँ र सचिवजीले त्यसमा धेरै काम गरिराख्नु भएको छ, तर त्यो अझै टाइम चाहिँ लाग्छ जस्तो लाग्छ। सो सरले भन्नुभएको चाहिँ एडप्सनमा हामी फास्ट पेसमै छौँ। कुनै पनि टेक्नोलोजी कहीँ लन्च हुन्छ नेपालमा अब टेस्ला कारदेखि अब बाटोमा हेर्न पाइन्छ। हजुरले ख्याल गर्नु होला, रातो राम्रो टेस्ला कारहरू देख्न पाइन्छ। मान्छे को भित्र छ थाहा छैन, तर टेक्नोलोजी आइसकेको छ। सो डिजिटलले के दिन्छ भन्दाखेरि ट्यालेन्टलाई एउटा अलिकति अपर्च्युनिटी चाहिँ क्रिएट गरिदिन्छ है। एउटा कुरा अहिलेसम्म त्यो अपर्च्युनिटी चाहिँ एकदमै मिनिमल थियो नेपालको केसमा हामी भन्ने। पछिल्लो 10 वर्षमा अलि त्यो इभन पछिल्लो 5 वर्षमा चाहिँ अलिकति यो इलेक्ट्रिसिटी र इन्टरनेट स्टेबल भइसकेपछि र हामीसँग जुन कनेक्टिभिटी र कम्युनिकेसन, अघि प्रब्लली पहिलो सेसनमा राजीव सर सेसनमा चाहिँ हामी ल्याङ्ग्वेजमा हामी कम्फर्टेबल छ भनेको छौँ, तर त्यो कनेक्टिङ कहाँ गर्ने भन्ने कुरा चाहिँ प्रब्लली अबको फेज जस्तो लाग्छ। र डिजिटलाइले त्यो डेमोक्रेटाइज गर्छ भन्ने एउटा कन्सेप्टबाट एडप्सनमा हामी छौँ। डेभलपमेन्टमा हामी बिस्तारै बामे सर्दैछौँ सर। अब त्यसलाई चाहिँ अलि दरिलो पार्नमा चाहिँ सरको एकदमै इम्पोर्टेन्ट चाहिँ भूमिका चाहिँ रहन्छ। हजुर सर।
हेमपालजी, एक मिनटको लागि फेरि म प्यानलिस्ट साथीहरूसँगै फर्केँ। एकदम ठिक हो होइन, हामी बिजनेसको हिसाबमा अलिकति अगाडि नै बढे पनि हौँ। जस्तो सिद्धिपजीलाई नै डिसोमको कुरोबाट ल्याएर अहिले फाइबर नेट पनि त्यसैबाट ल्याउनु भएको छ। आइडिया पनि अनलाइन पस्मिना सेलिङबाटै सुरु गर्नुभएको भने द्याट्स गुड होइन। दुईवटा कुरो हुन्छ कि यो ओभरअलमा टेक्नोलोजीको कुरो गर्दाखेरि आम रूपमा युजरहरूलाई चाहिँ अब डेभलपरलाई यो सबैतिरमा अर्को एउटा कुरो हाउ अफोर्डेबल इट इज भन्ने कुरोले हेर्छ होइन। जस्तो अहिले नै भन्नुभयो वर्ल्ड कप चाहिँ नि हामी माइट बी होइन ब्रोडकास्टिङ थ्रु डिजिटल र विथ पे भन्ने कुरो चाहिँ एउटा अफोर्डेबिलिटी हेर्छ। अर्को चाहिँ ट्रस्ट हेर्छ कि किन भन्दाखेरि अनलाइन सपिङका कुरोहरू अनलाइन उसमा जाँदाखेरि ट्रस्ट इज अ मस्ट। मैले चाहिँ नि भनेका जे कुरोहरू छन् त्यो त्यही हिसाबमा पाउँछु पाउँदैन, भएन भनेदेखि त्यो कसरी गर्ने, कहिलेकाहीँ अर्जेन्सीको केसेसहरू हुन्छ होइन, त्यो कुरोमा कसरी जाने भने यो दुईवटा कुरोलाई कसरी ब्यालेन्स मिलाएर जानुहुन्छ?
थ्याङ्क यू सजुज्यू। यो अलिकति मेरो आफ्नो एक्सपिरियन्सकै कुरा बताउँछु। मैले यो म चाहिँ अमेरिका धेरै बसेको, म खास आई स्टडिड इन द युनाइटेड स्टेट्स। 1994 तिर इन्टरनेट भनेर भन्दाखेरि हाम्रो प्रोफेसरहरूले चाहिँ इन्टरनेट इन्टरनट भन्थे क्या होइन। अनि 99 मा when I went back त्यो मास्टर्स गर्ने बेलामा मैले पस्मिना बोकेर गएँ। द्याट वाज द ओन्ली रिजन आई स्टार्टेड सेलिङ पस्मिना। अनि अनलाइनमा किन्ने चाहिँ खासै त्यो डेभलप भइसकेको थिएन, अलिअलि भइरहेको थियो। एन्ड पिपल डिड नट ट्रस्ट। त्यो क्रेडिट कार्ड हाल्ने भनेको इट वाज अ बिग हुन्छ नि, मेरो सबै जान्छ भन्ने खालको थियो। सो अघि भन्नुभयो नि जुगाड भने जस्तो, आई युज टु सेन्ड आउट माई पस्मिनाज, अनि उनीहरूलाई पैसा पठाइदेऊ चेक पठाइदेऊ भन्थेँ। आई गेन ट्रस्ट द्याट वे। अब त्यति बेला त्यस्तो लेभलको थियो भने त्यो बिस्तारै बिस्तारै डेभलप हुँदै गयो। आई थिङ्क नेपालमा पनि अहिले भनौँ न कति डिफिकल्टिज छ है। एक्चुली आई टुडे मात्र म चाहिँ त्यो पासपोर्ट बनाउनु गएको थिएँ कि। एन्ड हाम्रो अब सिस्टम त रहेछ, त्यो इनरोलमेन्ट सिस्टम पनि छ, तर इट्स नट वर्किङ है। त्यसलाई हामीले अझै ग्रहण गर्न सकेका छैन एज अ कन्ज्युमर। त्यो ग्रहण गर्नलाई चाहिँ आई थिङ्क इट टेक्स टाइम। अब अलिकति फोर्सफुल पनि हुनुपर्छ। आई थिङ्क द्याट्स फ्रम द गभर्मेन्ट साइड जस्तो पनि लाग्छ मलाई।
धन्यवाद सुदेवजी। एक दुईवटा क्वेसनहरू हामी फ्लोरबाट पनि लिइहाल्छौँ। एकनाथजीले राम्रोसँग भन्नुभयो होइन, क्रस कन्ट्री एक्सपिरियन्सका कुरोहरू पनि आयो। स्टार्टअपको सन्दर्भमा यहाँले भन्नुभएको कुरो एग्री गर्छु म पनि। हामी त्यति धेरै गभर्मेन्ट लेभलबाट चाहिँ नि एग्रेसिभली जान नसकेको पनि हो। यद्यपि हामीले केही प्रयास गरे हौँ तथापि जान सकेका छैनौँ। अहिले प्राइभेट सेक्टरले पनि केही इनिसिएटिभ लिएको छ होइन आइटीकै सेक्टरमा। दुईवटा कुरोमा मलाई अलिकति भएको, एक मिनटमा सघाउनु होला। इन्डेक्समा जुन छ नि हामी डेफिनेटली हामी इन्डेक्समा भन्दा पनि ऱ्याङ्किङमा चाहिँ पछाडि हौँ होइन। 126 मा 108-9 कतातिर छौँ होला त्यो हो। तर डज इट म्याटर अ लट अर नट? किन भन्दाखेरि इन्डेक्स इट्सेल्फको जुन छ नि, इन्डेक्सको स्कोर जुन छ, स्कोर म्याटर्स मोर आई थिङ्क होइन। किन भन्दाखेरि हो ऱ्याङ्किङ भने हिजो फर्स्ट भइरहेको आज थर्ड होला, थर्ड भएको, तर नट नेसेसरीली कि थर्डमा झर्नुको मतलब उसले चाहिँ पोर विकेट भएको होइन नि, अर्को चाहिँ नि छिटो दौड्यो होइन। ऱ्याङ्किङको हिसाबमा त त्यो डज इट म्याटर अ लट एउटा कुरो त्यो कन्फिडेन्सको लागि चाहिँ होला फेरि होइन। अब हामी त यति तल रहेछौँ अथवा हामी यति माथि रहेछौँ भनेपछि त्यो होला। अर्को चाहिँ क्याटेगोराइजेसनको कुरो गर्नुभएको थियो होइन। वाट यु मिन बाई इट एक्चुअली, मतलब फिनटेक एग्रिटेक जस्ता यस्ता सोसियल सेक्टरका टेकहरूका एजुकेसनकै होला होइन, हेल्थ टेकका कुरोहरू होला। कसरी क्याटेगोराइजेसन गर्ने भन्दाखेरि अलिकति क्याप्सुल चाहिँ बताइदिनु न, यो चाहिँ म गभर्मेन्टको पनि रिप्रेजेन्ट गर्ने भावनाले, तर दुईटै क्वेसनको 1 मिनटमा।
हस्, थ्याङ्क यू। मैले इन्डेक्सको कुरा किन ल्याएको भन्दाखेरि मैले त्यो नेपालको पोजिसन हामी कहाँ छौँ भनेर एउटा पनि थाहा हुन्छ, बेस लाइन पनि भनेर होइन, ऱ्याङ्किङको कुरा पनि अब त्यो ओभियसली त्यो होला। र मैले चाहिँ किन यो क्याटेगोराइजेसनको कुरा ल्याएको भन्दाखेरि चाहिँ हामीसँग कतिको अन्डरस्ट्यान्डिङ, अब डिजिटलाइजेसनको कुरा गर्छौँ तर इन्डियामा हेऱ्यो भने एग्रिटेकमा कति एडभान्स छ इन्डिया होइन। अनि त्यसपछि त्यसै गरी हेऱ्यो भने अब भियतनाममा हेऱ्यो भनेदेखि आइओटी सोल्युसन भन्छौँ, आइओटी सोल्युसनले चाहिँ उनीहरूको एग्रिकल्चर सेक्टरलाई चाहिँ उनीहरूले एकदम रेभोल्युसन गरिसक्यो उनीहरूले। भनेपछि हामीले त्यो आइटीलाई हामीले कसरी हेर्छौँ, आइटी त एउटा मिन्स अफ डुइङ समथिङ होइन, तर त्यसले एजुकेसनको सेक्टरमा कसरी त्यो हेल्प गर्छ, हेल्थको सेक्टरमा त्यसले ट्रान्सफर्मेसन कसरी गर्छ भने अहिले ग्लोबल इनोभेसनमा हेऱ्यो भनेदेखि इन्डियाले टोटल्ली त्यो सेक्टर वाइज क्याटेगोराइजेसन गरेको छ। एग्रिकल्चर सेक्टरमा डिफ्रेन्ट पोलिसीहरू ल्याएको छ। हामीले एउटै ठाउँमा स्टार्टअपहरूलाई हेऱ्यौँ, इनोभेसनलाई हेऱ्यौँ भने हामी कहीँ मुभ गर्न सक्दैनौँ। र एजुकेसन सेक्टरले एजुकेसनको पोलिसी बनाउनु पऱ्यो, एग्रिकल्चर सेक्टरले एग्रिकल्चर स्टार्टअपहरूलाई प्रमोट गर्ने पोलिसी बनाउनु पऱ्यो, त्यसरी हेल्थ सेक्टरले अनि त्यसरी चाहिँ फास्ट मुभिङ त्यो सेक्टरहरू चाहिँ फास्ट मुभ हुन्छ जस्तो लाग्छ भनेर मैले क्याटेगोराइजको कुरा गरेको। र एउटा सानो कुरा भन्न मन लाग्यो मलाई, अलिकति एडप्टेसनको कुरा गर्दाखेरि हामी ह्युमन सेन्ट्रिक डिजाइन भन्छौँ अथवा युजर्स फ्रेन्डली अथवा युजर सेन्ट्रिक डिजाइन भन्छौँ। धेरै जस्तो इनोभेटरहरू कहाँनिर सफल हुँदो रहेछ भन्दाखेरि उनीहरूले त्यो रिसर्च एन्ड डेभलपमेन्ट गर्दा R&Dमा खर्च गरेको छ उनीहरूले। र एउटा चाहिँ इनोभेसन डिजाइन गर्छ, प्रोटोटाइप गर्छ, उनीहरूको चाहिँ एकदम थरोली त्यो चाहिँ फिडब्याक लुपमा ल्याएर राख्दो रहेछ कस्टमरलाई। र उनीहरूको इनोभेसन चाहिँ अब हाम्रो चाहिँ के भन्छ, इनोभेसन प्रोटोटाइप गर्छौँ त्यसै मार्केटमा लान्छौँ। हामी कस्टमरलाई हामीले सोधेकै छैन, कस्टमरको फिडब्याक हामीले लिएकै छैन, रिसर्चमा हामी गएकै छैन। त्यो चाहिँ हामी गभर्मेन्टले पनि इन्करेज गर्नु पऱ्यो र स्टार्टअपहरूले पनि त्यो कुरालाई चाहिँ लिनु पऱ्यो। थ्याङ्क यू।
थ्याङ्क यू एकनाथजी। मेरो चाहिँ नि यु जस्ट स्न्याच फ्रम माई माउथ एक्चुअली, मैले पनि त्यही कुरोहरूलाई अलिकति भन्न खोजेको थिएँ। थ्याङ्क यू। म अलिकति समअपमा पनि आउँछु। हेमपालजीलाई चाहिँ नि दुईजनाले जुन कुरो गर्नुभयो नि त्यो कुरोलाई हामीले कुनै न कुनै हिसाबले यो डिजिटल नेपाल फ्रेमवर्कभित्र चाहिँ एड्रेस गर्न चाहिँ खोज्या हो है। दुवैजनाले भन्नुभएको कुरोहरू कसरी जाने भन्ने कुरोलाई, जस्तो अब सेक्टर वाइज उसमा कसरी जान सकिन्छ होइन भनेर त्यही 8 थीमेटिक एरिया जुन छ त्यसबाट पनि गर्न खोजेको छ। यो कुरोहरू मा कतै न कतै कोहेरेन्स छ अथवा चाहिँ नि कसरी अगाडि बढ्यो भनेदेखि उहाँहरू दुईजनाले भन्नुभएको कुरोलाई साँच्चीकै इम्प्लिमेन्टेबल बनाउन सकिन्छ होला?
धन्यवाद सचिवज्यू। सो सरले भन्नु डिजिटल नेपाल फ्रेमवर्क हेर्दाखेरि सचिवज्यूकै मन्त्रालयले यसलाई लिड गरिराख्नु भएको छ। त्यसमा हेर्दाखेरि चाहिँ 3टा इनेबलर चाहिँ हेरिरहेको छौँ। एउटा भनेको चाहिँ इन्फ्रास्ट्रक्चर र कनेक्टिभिटी भनेको चाहिँ नि त्यो चाहिँ मोर अफ इन्फ्रास्ट्रक्चर भयो भने डिजिटल नेपालको 2टा अरू इनेबलर चाहिँ ट्यालेन्ट पुल र डिजिटल स्किल्स भनेको छ, त्यो अलिकति मोर इनोभेसनसँग नजिक हुन्छ भने, र अर्को